It was horrible. Like, it was those nightmares, the paranoia, the clearing my house at 2 or 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning.
Do you think those years of waiting to actually become a cop made you a better cop in the long run?
I felt like my sweat was like as thick as syrup. Like, it felt like slime coming out of my pores.
What do you think was the hardest thing to adjust to as a rookie cop?
I was like hyperventilating. I was trying to take deep breaths, and I felt like I couldn't get enough air in my lungs.
Tell us about the first significant event that happens in your career.
The alcohol never, ever failed me. It worked every single time.
Within his first 2 years as a San Diego cop, Michael Martinez was involved in 3 separate shootings. The trauma nearly destroyed his life, turning a decorated officer into an alcoholic on the edge of losing everything. But what happened next might be the most powerful comeback story we've ever heard. Michael, welcome to Locked In. Thanks so much for flying all the way out from San Diego to be here today.
Oh man, it's an absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and thanks to Steve Murphy connecting us with another great law enforcement officer. We love these law enforcement stories. They're great, and the audience loves them too.
Yeah, shout out to Steve Murphy. He's a solid guy, and I ran into him. Doing a Southern California gang conference, and he reached out to me, and we got this all. I went on his podcast, and he recommended me to you, and he was like, "Dude, these guys are doing good stuff for law enforcement," and so I'm all about it.
Yeah, any introduction by Steve we know is like the real deal.
Awesome,
He'll tell us when someone's not the real deal. No, he won't even bother introducing. He goes through like a whole vetting process. He's very like interesting in that regard.
Yeah.
Like before I even got introduced to any of his people in the circle, I did his show and he got to know me, and then we had him on here first because you don't want to vouch for someone and then you have a bad experience on that person's show. Like if you came all the way out here and it wasn't a legitimate podcast or something, that would suck.
Yeah.
And thanks to your wife for the chocolates.
Oh yeah, absolutely. She's from Hawaii, so that's her thing. She takes chocolates everywhere we go. She meets new people. She passes those out, and so for when I came out here, she's like, "Hey, are you taking chocolates?" I was like, "I'm not taking chocolates. Like these guys don't want any chocolates." And she's like, "Take them a freaking chocolate." And I was like, "No, I don't have any room in my bag." She's like, "Take them a freaking chocolate." I'm like, "All right, let me take them." So
we'll tell her we said thank you very much. We're not going to turn down chocolate. Where are you from?
I'm from San Diego, born and raised in South San Diego. Family's from there, and born and raised, and went to high school, got into a little bit of trouble in high school, and I did well enough overall where I was able to go to college in Hawaii, and that's where I met her.
What was your upbringing like? Did both parents in the picture? Any siblings?
Yes, so I have older brother, two older stepbrothers, or half brothers, I should say, and both my parents were always in the picture. My dad, he was a hardworking guy. I remember growing up, and he was just like never home because he was like always working like 2-3 jobs. He had like 2 full-time jobs. He had a freaking part-time job. He did work on the side he was like a jack of all trades. Like he knew like plumbing and landscaping and electrical work. Like he knew a little bit of everything. So my dad was probably one of the, he was the one that kind of instilled that like hard work ethic, that solid work ethic, like get your ass up, go to work, go to work. My mom, she was obviously she was in the picture as well. She was always worked long hours. So, but both my parents were in the picture, and yeah, grandparents. I was raised a lot by my grandparents too. Spent a lot of time with them, and yeah, it was like a family thing, right? We all took care of. They all took care of us, and yeah.
If there was one thing you could change about your childhood, what would that be?
Oh, that's a good question. There'd be a couple of things. Now as an adult, as a father myself, looking back, I would have spent more time with my dad, learning how to do things, like learning how, like the electrical work, landscaping, learning how to work with my hands. I got into a lot of trouble when I was a younger kid, try to be a gangster, hanging out with my cousins and uncles, because I come from a family where both sides of the family are were wrapped up in that. Some of them are still are, but by the time that I was born, my both my parents, not to call them out, but both my parents, they had their involvement back in their youth, with the neighborhood, but by the time I was born, they were both already out of that lifestyle. They were both already working, but cousins and uncles, not so much. They were still involved in the neighborhood, but you know, it's not cool to do yard work and hang out with your dad, who's a hard worker, um, when you're a teenager, when you're trying to be cool, right? When you're trying to hang out with the homies, when you're trying to be a gangster. I'm like, dude, I'm never gonna do yard work. Like, I'm never gonna need to learn any of this shit. I'm not gonna need to learn how to, cut wood, cut wood or do landscaping work. Like, I'm gonna make money and I'm gonna have somebody else do that for me. And I wish I would have spent more time with him, you know, just learning things. And I wish I wouldn't have grown up so fast. I think I grew up really fast. Again, hanging out with the crowd that I hung out with, hanging out with cousins and uncles, and trying to be that gangster, and you know, the girls and all that stuff. I think I just grew up fast. I wish I would have been a kid. I wish I would have enjoyed being a kid.
Do you think having that experience of almost going down the wrong path has made you a better police officer today?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You get to you see that not everybody is bad. Everybody deserves second chances, right? And and that dealing with that type of clientele at work, it was easy. Like, it was easy for me to talk to gang members or talk to criminals because I hung out with them as a youngster. Some of my family members were that, right? Drug addicts, like, and I knew the lingo, and I knew what was what, and I knew the game a little bit. So it was easy to kind of almost transition into that career.
Do you think there's some law enforcement officers that kind of forget where they came from?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You get your gun and badge, you get a little bit of power, and all of a sudden you think that you're better than everybody else. And in reality, cops aren't better than anybody. We're human. Everybody's human. We make mistakes. We have addictions. We have same issues as every single human being on this planet. We're no different than anybody else. So I think sometimes people get into this career and they think that their shit doesn't stink, and that's not the case.
How do you end up getting through your gangster phase?
So interesting enough, I got into a whole bunch of fights in high school. My parents pulled me out. I had to go to a Catholic high school. So now I'm going from a community, a community school, right? It's free, and now they're putting me into a private high school where they have to pay for me to go to school. And I still got into fights when I was there also. But I remember my 11th grade year, the school counselor, she pulls me out of class, and she asked me, "Hey, what are your goals when you graduate from high school? What do you plan on doing?" And I told her something like, "I'm just gonna kick it. Like, I'm gonna kick it on the block. I'm gonna kick it with the homies. Like, I'll probably go get a part-time job. Maybe I'll go to community college." And I remember her giving me this look like, "You're a stupid ass." You know what I mean? You're a dumb kid. And I remember her looking at me. She said, "Hey, your overall grades, they're good enough where you may be able to get into a 4-year university." And for me, I I I I don't remember myself being a good kid. I remember doing my homework. Like, homework wasn't too hard. Like, um, I did bad at tests. I still do bad at tests. Like, I'm awful at tests, but I did my homework. Like, I did my homework. It was pretty easy. I wish I would have applied. Sometimes I still think, like, if I would have applied myself when I was younger, like, how different life would have been for me. I wonder what that would have been like. Like, if I would have studied, if I would have hung around with the good kids at school, the nerds, like the smart kids, and not fucking up at school. Like I wonder what would have came of me. And but she told me, she was like, hey, your overall grades, they're good enough where you may be able to get into a 4-year university. She gave me this book, and it had all the Catholic universities in the entire nation. So I take that book home. She's like, bring it back to me tomorrow. And I was like, all right. She's like, circle the schools that you're interested in going to and bring it back to me tomorrow. I was like, all right. So I remember sitting at home. It was at night. I would sneak like beers into my house. Like there was just a liquor store that would like sell like alcohol to underage kids, and I would go buy. I bought a couple of beers, and I'm sitting in my room and I'm drinking a couple of beers and I'm flipping through the book, and I just remember thinking like, okay, I hate cold weather. I'm a South San Diego boy, right? I do not like cold weather. This is too cold for me right now. It's freezing out here. So I was like, none of the East Coast schools, anywhere where it snows, anywhere where it gets super cold, like I'm not going to. That's just not my cup of tea. So I get to the California schools, and I remember, just looking at these schools and thinking, I need to get the fuck out of California because I'm fucking up. Like I was a fuck up. I was hanging out with the wrong crowd. I was doing things that I shouldn't have been doing, and I was like, if this lady is really about giving me a second shot at life, I need to take advantage of it. I need to get out of California. So I get to the last couple of pages was Alaska and Hawaii. So of course, right? I'm not going to pick Alaska. I picked Hawaii. I'm like, let's see if this lady is really about it, right? Let's see if she, let's see what tricks up her sleeve that she has that she could pull some strings and get me into the school. So I circled Chaminade University of Honolulu, which is a Catholic university in Hawaii. Bring it back to school, and it felt like she just, the ball just got rolling right afterwards. She helped my parents and fill out all the FAFSA paperwork. She helped me write my essay to the school, and next thing you know, I get accepted to Chaminade University of Honolulu, and never been to Hawaii before. It was definitely a culture shock, but right after graduating high school, like 2 months later, I found myself in Honolulu, Hawaii. So.
And did you have a major at that time, or were you undecided?
Yeah, so I did. I was studying psychology, and the reason I picked that was because of her. I wanted to work with at-risk teens. I wanted to work with that was the population of kids that I wanted to work with, and or the population of people I wanted to work with. So I started to study psychology, and when you're broke as a college kid. My parents were low income. I come from a low income family, so they were like I wasn't getting an allowance or anything like that. So I started working right away, and I got a part-time job working as a security officer at the Queens Medical Center of Honolulu, and it serves as the state's trauma center, but it also serves as like the psychiatric center for like the state, or especially for Oahu. So Honolulu PD, they would bring in their psych patients, and I quickly learned that none of these people were psych. Maybe they were, but they were all high on meth. Like every single person they brought in, they were high as shit on meth. So when the handcuffs came off in the emergency room, the fights were on. Like patients were fighting patients. Patients were the patients. We call them patients, but it was like the folks that Honolulu PD brought in. They were fighting nurses and they were fighting doctors, and they would call security. And then here we come in and we run in and we take the person down to the ground and we fight them. We strap them down on the gurney with the leather restraints. We help get them medicated. And I was like, holy shit, the adrenaline rush! Like I love that adrenaline rush, right? Like I'm getting paid to break up fights, like take people down to the ground. And they would fight back. Like they weren't just like letting us, take them down. Like they were fighting back. They would escape from the rec center. They'd be running down Punch Bowl Street, and there we are chasing them on foot. We take them down to the ground. Like we're fighting them in the middle of the street, freaking cars are honking and we're throwing handcuffs on them. We're walking them back to the emergency room. We're fighting up we're breaking up domestic, domestic violence issues that are going on at the other floors, family fights, that go on. And I was like, holy crap. I don't know if I want to work with at-risk teens anymore. I think I might want to be a cop. And it was like, and I never thought about being a cop when I was real young, probably like 12, 13. I remember thinking like, I never wanted to be a cop, but I was like, maybe I could be a homicide detective. And when you're young and you don't know the process, I thought like, okay, I could just become a detective. Like I could just apply for a law enforcement agency and I could become a homicide detective if I have a college degree. And I know it's stupid to think about that, but now I know. And I get sometimes people will ask me, hey, how do I become a detective? I'm like, well, you got to be a cop first. That's a promotion. You need to be a cop first. You can't just become a detective. But I remember watching that movie Seven with Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt.
Is that the cowboy movie or?
No. It was like with that where there was a one murder and he's killing a whole bunch of people and he's going by like the different like the seven, I think it's like the 7 sins in the Bible, like gluttony and lust and all kinds of, so he's killing all these people. I remember watching that movie and thinking like, damn, that would be cool to be a homicide detective, like deal with dead bodies and blood spatter and all that stuff. So I never thought about being a cop other than a detective, but now when I'm working at the Queens Medical Center and you're rubbing elbows with Honolulu PD officers and some of the security officers that I was working with, they got hired with Honolulu PD, and I started tossing around the idea like, man, I think I want to be a cop. The adrenaline rush, like chasing people, fighting people, like that's right up my alley. Like I could do that, and I started tossing around that idea. I applied for state corrections. I applied for the Hawaii Youth Correctional Facility, and I got picked up. And so I remember I was like, man, I think this is going to be my dream job. Like I'm kind of a cop, right? Correctional officer. I'm kind of a cop, and I'm working with at-risk teens, right? They house the worst of the worst, like kids with the most violent crimes, longest sentences, whatever. This might be my dream job. And man, I remember the first day, like working on my own. You do your phase, and you're teamed up with another senior officer, and you go around the modules, and that like lasts for about a week or two, and then you're cut out on your own. And I remember the first day working alone, and I was like, I fucking hate kids. I fucking hate this population. Like I do not want to work with at-risk teens. I do not like this population. And that it takes a special person to deal with teenagers, right? It takes a special, and I realize that I'm not that special person. Like that's not me. I'm not that person. I don't have that patience, especially at that time, right? I'm in my 20s.
Fellas, listen, Blue Chew took one look at the competition, laughed, and said, nah, we're going gold. Blue Chew Gold is the newest innovation from the #1 chewable ED brand, and this thing is a unit. We're talking a 4-in-1 formula designed to bring energy, connection, and intensity into one experience. 2 ingredients for blood flow paired with apomorphine and oxytocin to elevate the moment in your mind and your body. And the best part, Blue Chew Gold dissolves under your tongue and can start working in as little as 15 minutes. That means when the moment shows up, you're not hesitating, you're already in game mode. Let me personalize this for you. The first time I held Blue Chew Gold in my hand, I swear it felt like I was holding the VIP pass to overtime. My phone sends a "you up" text. I don't answer with words. I answer with a picture of Blue Chew. And suddenly, the night takes on a whole new level of confidence. This isn't hype. This is a whole attitude shift. Forget Netflix and chill. This is Netflix and fill. This is peak passion, peak performance, all in one tablet. Make life easier by getting harder and discover your options at BlueChew.com. And we've got a special deal for our listeners. Get 10% off your first month of Blue Chew Gold with code LOCKEDIN. That's promo code LOCKEDIN. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. And as always, we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring the podcast. Was there something specifically that happened?
It was just like like the kids didn't play by any rules. You know what I mean? Like there was no rules in my mind. Hanging out with gangsters and like hearing the stories. Like in my mind, I was thinking like these kids are gonna play by the rules that I've heard. Like my uncles and my cousins will talk about like, prison and jail rules, right? Where like you can't just go pop off on anybody. Like you got to ask for permission. Like there's a set of rules. You can't just go and hit anybody, right? And th- th- I just in my mind I thought that these kids were gonna play by the same rules as adults, and I was mistaken. Like they were even like Christmas they would pop off, right? And that's like the most peaceful. Usually, it's the most peaceful time when you're locked up during the holidays because nobody wants visitation and all that stuff to be broken up. Phone calls, not to you not being able to make phone calls and stuff. And in my mind, I'm just like, okay, Thanksgiving is coming up. Like it's a week away. Like all these kids are gonna. They didn't give a shit about any of that, and there wasn't that much that we can do. Like, yeah, we could lock them up in their cell for a little while, but they'd find their way out like in a day or two, you know what I mean? And there was like no punishment. So I was like, what am I doing? Like it's like fighting an uphill battle. And this is back in, I don't know, like 2006, 2006. So you could just imagine in today's world, like there's even less punishment. There's less that, you know, correctional or youth correctional officers are able to do. It must be, I could just imagine that it must be harder. I've talked to people who work with juveniles and they're like, man, it sucks. Like there's no punishment. So when I was working at the Hawaii Youth Correctional Facility, the people were cool, the kids were cool. Like it was just not my cup of tea. It was just not my cup of tea. And I just remember thinking, I think I'm going to be a cop. I think I'm going to apply for a law enforcement agency. And I started to apply. I started in Hawaii first, applying for Honolulu PD, for Maui PD. Um, my background, I was a little too honest in my background. I put everything down on paper. And I'm glad that I did because now nothing could come back and bite me in the ass, you know? Nothing could come back and bite me in the ass now, but I threw everything down on paper. You fill out this packet as a PHQ or a PHS, past history questionnaire or past history statement. It's like 40, 50 pages of, tell us all about the citations you ever had, moving citations, parking citations, what school did you go to, all the addresses that you've ever lived at, family background, your parents. Do you have anybody in your family who's ever been arrested? Anybody who's involved in gangs? Do you, what drugs have you, tell us about the drugs that you've done, every single drug, every single time. And I'm thinking, every single time, like even weed? They're like, yeah, even weed. Like every single time that you did it, like tell us about it. So I was a little too honest. So I'm like, let me tell you all about it. Like, let me print out extra pages. Let me tell you about all the crimes that I've committed that I never got caught for. Everything from like stupid shit to like, throwing eggs at a house on Halloween or something, or, taking my mom's car without permission, right? Grand theft auto or something. And in my mind, I'm thinking like, oh, these are crimes. Technically these are crimes, right? But it was just joyriding, but it's basically the theft of a vehicle. So I put everything on paper. So Honolulu PD, Maui, God, I applied for San Diego PD, San Diego Sheriff's Department, Long Beach, Border Patrol back in 2008 or 2009. I applied for a whole bunch of different agencies and I kept getting disqualified. San Diego PD, San Diego Sheriff's Department, they were the two big agencies that I was applying for because I wanted to eventually come back home to San Diego. So they disqualified me multiple times, both agencies. And they would give you a letter and say like, hey, you're disqualified for 5 years. You can't reapply for 5 years. You can't reapply for 3 years, 2 years, 1 year. Different agencies gave me different letters. And finally in 2016 or in 2013, I moved back, and she was my fiance at the time. She's my wife now, but excuse me, my fiance, she moved back to her and I, we moved back to San Diego. We moved to San Diego, and I got picked up with San Diego County Animal Control. And I did that for a little under 2 years. And in 2016, San Diego PD, they gave me a shot.
So how long were you in corrections for in Hawaii?
Just about 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah, probably a little over 2 years, maybe like 2 years and a few months.
And you went from straight there to animal control? Tell us
Yes.
about animal control. I don't think we've ever had an animal control cop on the show,
Yeah. So,
especially in a big city like San Diego.
so I was working for San Diego County Animal Control, and to be honest, it was a fun job. The people that I worked with were fun. The calls that we went to, the calls that we investigated, those were fun. I realized that I've always been a shit magnet. And when we get into my story, right, folks are gonna find out a little more as to why I'm a shit magnet. But in animal control, one of the most significant things that happened in animal control that I don't actually talk about it a lot is there was like county fires that happened back in 2014 or 2015 out in East County, San Diego. Everything was burning out in like Alpine, like Hamul, Hakamba area. And I respond, and obviously we're like animal control is considered first responders. Like we're rolling out there with the sheriff's department, with CHP. We're helping evacuate homes. We're helping evacuate, the animals, the livestock, horses, and loading them up onto our trailers. And it was crazy, like loading up chickens or whatever it may be. People that have animals out there. And I was driving down this highway. It was like a one lane highway. It's in the middle of nowhere, out in the mountains, and everything had already been burned. So I'm driving through, and that particular day, I had a ride along with me, and she was with a news agency in San Diego. She was doing a ride along with me. She was helping cover the fires. And I have a ride along with me, and I see there was a fire truck passing me on the opposite direction, and they kind of flagged me down, and I lowered my window because it's like smoky out there, and so I had my windows up. I lowered it down, and the fire guy tells me, he's like, "Hey, right as you go around this bend, there's gonna be it's an emu. There's gonna be an emu. It's like a huge ass ostrich, right? There's an emu, and it's burned, and it's still alive. It's walking right in the middle of the road." And I was like, okay. So I'm thinking, shit. I know in the academy, I never really had to deal with those in my career up until that point. So I remember I was like in the academy, I remember, ostriches and emus, like one kicks backwards and one kicks forward, and they have long ass like nails. They'll fuck you up. You know what I mean? And I was like, shit, which one was it? And I'm like looking at my cell phone, and I have no reception out there. And I'm like, well, let's try to figure out, like, I'm gonna roll the dice and see what happens. So I start rolling around that bend, and I see the emu, and it's off onto the side of the road, and it's I don't know, it's off into the side of the road. And I park my car, I get out, and I had that ride along with me. Like she sets up her camera, so she starts recording. And as I'm like trying to get close to that emu, and it was burnt, like its feathers were like melted. It was fucked up. And as I start to like walk over to that, there's this like burnt down, almost like a shed. It was all like broken and burnt down, and it was off in a little distance. And this guy comes out. He's like, "Hey, get the fuck off my property." And I'm like looking at him, I was like, "Hey, bro, I'm just trying to get this bird." And he's like, "Get the fuck off my property. This is private property." And I'm looking, I'm like 3 steps onto the dirt from the road. I'm like, this can't be, like, his house is like way out, that shed or whatever it was way out, kind of a distance. I don't think this is his property. I was like, dude, just give me like 10 minutes. Let me try to capture this bird. My plan was to just like to put it down, right? To euthanize it, because it was all burnt. It was messed up. And so he didn't say anything. He walks right back into his shed. He comes out with a fucking shotgun, And he's like, "Get the fuck off my property!" And he like points the gun at me, and I look over to the lady, and then he ends up like putting the gun up in the air and shooting, like firing off a round. I was like, "Oh shit!" And we're not armed, Animal control. We have a baton or something, right? Baton and pepper spray, I think. And I was like, "Oh shit!" So like, she grabs all her shit. She just like jumps into the car. I run around, and then next thing you know, I'm like driving off, and I'm looking in my rearview mirror. This dude's like popping off rounds in my like I see him pointing the shotgun, and I was like, "Holy crap!" So I put out, "Hey, I'm being shot at, whatever," and the cavalry comes, like CHP and Border Patrol and the Sheriff's Department. That was one of my crazy, interesting stories, and that's just the beginning of my career. And I don't talk about that much. I don't have an opportunity to talk about that much, but that was my experience at Animal Control. And a couple of months after that, I got hired.
Why would that guy shoot at you?
So out there, it's like the wild, wild west. I was like, apparently he thought that I was on his property. We wear the tan uniform, so we look like the Sheriff's Department. We wear at the time, the Animal Control. We wore, I don't know what they wear now. We wore the green, the green pants with the tan, uniform shirt and the badge, the star badge.
And are you armed too?
We're not armed.
Oh, so like out here, I know like Animal Control is like an actual cop.
Okay.
From like say the Danbury Police Department. Someone there would work animal control. So in your case, your guys aren't armed.
No, we're not armed. We have like arrest powers. Like we could write citations. Like we could make arrests. We never like actually made physical arrests. We have like PD or the Sheriff's Department make the physical arrest. But yeah, we weren't armed. So
was he charged with attempted murder?
I thought he was going to be. He was charged with like discharging a firearm, like negligent discharge of a firearm, and some other like he pleaded down to some other stuff. But he thought, I forgot what his story was. His story was like he didn't know that I was Animal Control. He didn't know that I was like a law enforcement officer. He thought that I was like some stranger trespassing on his property. But it was crazy.
Have you ever responded to one of those like crazy cat lady type houses or hoarders or anything like that?
Yeah, those are nasty. Like you walk into a hoarder's house that has cats, and all the cat urine has like, what is it, ammonia or something like that, and you'll feel like menthol in your eyes. Like even breathing it's freaking nasty. Yeah, it's some nasty stuff. Your eyes will water up. Sometimes you could barely breathe. Like the first thing you want to do is just start opening people's windows. Like I've gone to people's houses where just trash and just mess is like stacked up to the ceiling. There's cat shit on the ceiling. There's cat, like literally like on the ceiling. There's cat shit on the walls. There's like dead rats just laying around. I mean,
how do people
sad.
live like that?
I don't know.
Because it's California, do you also respond to like mountain lion calls, like in the house, or what snakes?
Snakes, yeah, like
happen?
rattlesnakes,
yeah,
yeah.
like
but
in the house.
I've never had to deal with a mountain lion or anything.
But doesn't
like
that happen? Like where they leave the back door open and the mountain lion comes in?
I never heard of it, but I mean, I not at San Diego. I've heard of it happening like up in like LA or like some other areas, but I never heard of it happening in San Diego. I wouldn't even respond to that.
And then I was seeing videos of like is it mountain lions or coyotes that hop the fence and grab people's dogs?
Both.
Yeah, okay.
I've seen coyotes. Yeah, coyotes hop my fence. So yeah.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
All right. So you do that, and then you finally get the call to transfer the Sheriff's Department?
San Diego PD.
Oh, San Diego.
So
PD,
yeah,
okay.
so San Diego PD, they gave me a shot. And it took years for me to get hired, because I kept getting disqualified. But whenever that 3-year or 2-year or 1-year mark would come up, whatever was placed on that letter, I would reapply, because I knew that's what I wanted to do. I was going more into it for the excitement of the career. It's something different. It pays good, but I'm like, man, you could do good stuff. Like maybe I can become a cop and go back to the community that I was born and raised in and make a difference. Like maybe change the way that, some of the teenagers or the community thinks of police officers. Maybe I can be that one person. Right. That's what I thought. you
Do you
know?
think that's the wrong reason to become a cop, like chasing the excitement, how you were thinking about it years before when you're still in Hawaii?
No. I think a lot of times, not a lot of times, I think some people may come into the profession not knowing that it's gonna be high adrenaline, that you're gonna be faced with dangerous shit, dangerous people, that you're gonna have to make split-second decisions, that you're gonna have to fight sometimes, that you might have to use force against people. Sometimes I think people come into this profession and they don't really realize what they're getting themselves into. The adrenaline rush, it may not, uh, it may impact them in a negative way. They may not be used to that type of adrenaline rush, like getting into a fight with somebody at work is not normal, right? That's not normal, and some people, um, I'm not sure if some people are prepared for that. So I think it's important to uh to not chase that rush, but to get into it not only for the excitement of the job, but for you got to want to help people. I think at the end of the day, when you're hiring people, agencies are hiring people, you need to hire people that want to help people. You need to hire um, alpha type people that are going to run towards that gunfire, right? They're going to run towards a bad guy that's armed with a gun. You know, whatever it may be, you need to hire those type of people. You can't hire people that are going to shy away from violent situations, you know, going after a parolee who is telling you like, no, they're not going to cuff up. What are you going to do? Um, I think it's important to hire people that are, again, that are alphas that are going to go out there and do the job.
Every year when the holidays roll around, I swear I go on the same mission: find a gift that's personal, meaningful, not too over the top, but also doesn't make me look like I panic bought it in a CVS parking lot. And somehow I always end up in the last minute spiral of, do I get them socks? Do I get them a candle? Do I just give up and buy a gift card? But this year, Aura Frames made holiday shopping stupidly easy. It's the one gift that actually feels personal without requiring a meltdown in the mall. For me, giving an Aura frame basically eliminates the entire hunt. I don't have to guess sizes, guess colors, or pretend I know what someone else's aesthetic is. I just load the frame with photos that mean something to us, and that alone does 90% of the emotional heavy lifting. Here's what makes it the easiest win of the season: unlimited free photos and video. Just download the Aura app and connect the frame to Wi Fi. And you could preload it before it ships so it arrives already filled with memories, and they think you spent way more time on it than you actually did. I'm telling you, if you want to actually win the holidays this year without overthinking it, an Aura frame does the job. Don't wait. Win the holidays now with Aura Frames. For a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver matte frames. Named number one by Wirecutter by using promo code LOCKEDIN at checkout. That's AURA frames.com, promo code locked in. This deal is exclusive to listeners and frames sell out fast, so order yours now to get it in time for the holidays. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. Do you think those years of waiting to actually become a cop made you a better cop in the long run? Like maybe the universe wasn't ready for you to become a cop yet, or you weren't ready?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think everything happens for a reason. God has his plan as to when and where and why. Um, it was when I got the call that I was getting hired, it was humbling because I didn't think that somebody like me, the way that I grew up, all the stuff that I did as a young dumb kid, that I would have the opportunity to be a cop. I thought I was going to continue to get disqualified for all the different agencies that I applied for. So it was humbling. God does things on His own time, and I'm glad that it happened the way it happened. But it definitely matured me too, because I went in. God, I was like 29 or 30. So I had some life experience under my belt. I had some work experience under my belt. I had been working, corrections, animal control. So I had been in the law enforcement or first responder field for a little while. So I think it prepared me to do the job as a police officer. So I think that little bit of time of continuing to get disqualified, because it took me like 7, 8, 9 years to finally get hired. So
Did you ever find out why they finally decided to let you get hired?
I just remember getting a phone call from my background investigator, and I answered the phone, and she said, "Mr. Martinez, this is so and so." She said, "Mr. Martinez, you have a very interesting and extensive background." And I was like, "Oh, she's gonna disqualify me. I know it." And before she could say anything else, I kind of butted in and I said, "Ma'am, I understand that the San Diego Police Department, you guys don't hire angels, and I'm far from an angel. But you guys say that you hire honest people, and for the past 7, 8, 9 years, however long it's been, I've been nothing but honest. There's no skeletons in my closet. Everything is on paper. Everything I've done, it's on paper. It's all there. You're not going to find anything else in my background." And so, yeah, she gave me a shot.
So what happens once they finally let you in? You go to training?
Yeah, so you go to the academy. It's a regional academy, so you have different different recruits from different agencies. You have the sheriff's department, San Diego PD, Chula Vista, La Mesa, National City, Escondido. Like, you have agencies all within San Diego County, that go to a 6 month police academy, and it's not a live in. You go home. It's at a college out there.
What did your wife think, or your fiance at the time, about you actually getting into the police department?
Yeah. So when I first went to the academy, I was a brand new dad. We had our first son. He was a baby, and I had just gotten married the year prior. So there was a lot of life changes. I think she was all about it. She was super supportive. We needed the money, so she was like, "Heck yeah, you're gonna get paid. You're gonna, her and I were. I'm like, heck yeah, we're gonna get paid more than what I'm getting paid at animal control. So yeah, let's do it." So she was supportive of it. The question that I get a lot is family. So I still had family that was involved in the streets, and they used drugs, involved in the gang life, and nobody ever really gave me a hard time. They gave me a little shit like, "Oh, watch out, the Huda's coming!" Like, "Oh, here comes the cop," "Here comes the cop." But other than that, some people kind of stopped talking to me, which was it's fine. It is what it is. And we would see each other on Christmas or family, holidays and stuff, family functions, my grandma's birthday, stuff like that. But nobody ever really gave me a hard time. So
How do you feel the training was?
uh, I expected the academy to be more difficult. It was for me, I was looking at, YouTube videos. I'm like, damn, they're gonna smoke us for like a month, 2 months, right? It's gonna be nonstop. Let's just say this: I expected more. There was days that it was tough, but I was expecting to get smoked, but I didn't. Yeah,
So once you finally passed training, tell us about day one on the job.
yeah. So I pass training. We start phase training. There's San Diego, well, not just San Diego, but agencies. Most agencies have four phases of training. It's a month each phase. And when I first started, they don't do this anymore, but when I first started, they had like in-service training, which they teach you about, like, how to use the computer and all the database systems and, different, just San Diego PD related things, very like agency specific type things. That I think we did that for about a week or two. And then afterwards I had 2 weeks of oh God, it wasn't called phase training. It was called um it was like pre-phase. It was like pre-phase. So you did 2 weeks. I did 2 weeks at Western Division, and then you do another 2 weeks at Eastern Division, and then we started our phase training. So or phase one. Um, and I did, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4 phases. I went to Southeastern Division, Mid City, Northern, and where was it? Northeastern. So I did my phases, and San Diego PD, we at the time there was 9 different divisions. Today we have 10 divisions now, but we have 9 divisions, and I think it's during our third phase, they allowed us to pick our top 3 choices of which division we would like to be assigned to once we graduated from phase training. And it's not a graduation like a ceremony. You just like you finish your last day of phase training and you're done. But so they allow us to pick your top 3 choices of which division you would like to be assigned to. And depending on how well you, there's a whole bunch of things that come into play, but a lot of it is how well do you do at during phase training. You know, where do you live? Like they're not gonna, if you live in Orange County, which is, you know, the county north of San Diego, they're not gonna assign you all the way to Southern Division, probably even if you want it, because as a brand new rookie cop, you're still learning. It's a lot to learn. You're gonna be doing a lot of overtime. And they're not going to, you know, that's like a 2 hour, 3 hour drive with traffic sometimes, right? So they're not going to send you all the way down by the border. They're going to try to work with you. So I picked Southern Division as my number one choice. Southern Division, South San Diego was where I was born and raised. Our southern neighbor is Tijuana. Our northern neighbor is the city of Chula Vista. And I wanted to go back and give back to the community that I was born and raised in, right? That's, I mean, now I'm a cop. You know, I could go, I know the area where at least I thought I did. I knew the area. I'm going to go back to work in the community that I was born and raised in. And I got it. They picked me up for Southern Division. It was my number one choice and I got picked up.
And what would a typical day be like for you?
So for me, my career was pretty unique. My first day on the job out of phase training, I'm a real cop. My first day, I'm working graveyard shift. I come into work. Again, I'm a brand new cop. A couple of days prior, I had just loaded up my locker and got a brand new locker, and I'm feeling good. I'm coming into work, and all my shit is all creased up. My uniform's all ironed and pressed, and my boots are all shiny. Like I'm feeling good. Like I shaved my head. Like I'm excited. I'm nervous. I'm scared. Right? I don't know anybody at Southern Division. I didn't do a phase over there, but I was born and raised there, right? So I get in there, I'm working graveyard shift. So we start at, we start at 9 p.m. We get off at 7 o'clock in the morning. And I got there early. I'm changing into my uniform. And I always tell this story when I'm at different conferences. I'm changing into my uniform. And I remember, you know, the OGs start to like trickle in. People start walking in. And I said, I told somebody, I was like, hey, good morning, sir. I mean, good afternoon. I mean, good evening. It's 7 p.m., but I'm like nervous and I don't know what to say to these guys. They don't know who I am. And I remember somebody looking at me, like telling me, hey, dude, shut the fuck up. Don't talk to us. Put your clothes on. Like you have no pants on. Like, you know, put your shit on. And I'm like, all right, cool. So I put my clothes on. I get into the lineup room. And as people start trickling into the lineup room, my sergeant, I didn't know he was my sergeant at the time. He gets up into the podium. And he's a hard ass, you know, squared away, you know, fit guy, ex-Marine, you know, former Marine. And he's up at the podium and like lineup is about to start like in a minute. And my phone keeps going off in my pocket. And I finally look at my phone and I have a whole bunch of missed calls from my wife. So I look at the text messages and the first text message my wife sends me is, why aren't you answering your phone? And I'm thinking, what do you mean why I'm not answering my phone? I start working like 30 seconds. That's why I'm not answering my phone. It's my first day on the job. Like I'm a real cop today. Like I'm not in phase training. I'm on my own. And the second text message she sends me is hello with like a shit ton of question marks. I've gotten those text messages before. That's when you know that you fucked up, right? I'm like, dude, she's pissed off. Like hello with like a whole bunch of question marks. The next text message she sends me is my water just broke. I'm on my way to the hospital. So my wife got pregnant again when I was, during the academy and during phase training. I remember sweating and I haven't even started my first day on the job. Like, we're in lineup, work hasn't even started. And I remember raising my hand up and I'm like shaking and I'm like sitting right next to the sergeant at the podium. And he looks at me, he's like, "What?" And I said, "Sir, I'm so sorry to tell you this. My wife's water just broke right now. She's on her way to the hospital." And everybody in lineup was like busting up laughing. And I'm sweating. I'm like, how can this happen on my first day on the job? How can this happen? And everybody's cracking up and he looks at me, he said, "Well, you better get the fuck out of here then." And I'm like, all right. So I got the fuck out of there, and my wife gave birth that night to our second son. And I always say this, I should have known the way that my first day on the job started. I should have known that the rest of my career was going to be a shit show. And it has been, life and work has just been, it's been um, abnormal, to say the least. But that's the way my first day on the job. Took about a week and a half off of work and came to work, and I hit the ground running. I was involved in everything that was going on at Southern Division. Every day I came to work, it was like a show on cops every single day. Uh, Foot pursuits, vehicle pursuits, gangsters, dope, guns, use of force, and my first day on the job, my first day back to work after my wife gave birth to our son. Uh, I was partnered up with my buddy Amir, and he was like the senior. He was more, obviously more senior than me. He's my buddy now. I didn't know who he was at the time, but we respond to a burglary in progress where these two guys took like assault rifles from the house. And my first day on the job, we're chasing these dudes through the park. We're jumping over fences. We're chasing them through the street. And these guys are like, and they ended up being teenagers. They're armed with like, rifles. And I was like, and then this is my first day on the job. There was like thousands of rounds that they had like dropped in the park. And we're like picking up all the rounds. And I was like, holy shit, like this is my first day on the job. And from that day on, man, it was just like, it was just like one thing after another after another. But I'm just a regular patrol officer. Like, you're still handling all your domestic violence, your petty thefts, your domestic violence, petty thefts, your vehicle collisions, your transient calls. Like, you're still handling all the regular police work. Like, you're just doing the police work. Um, I remember when I was in phase training, one of my FTO, excuse me, one of my FTOs told me, um, take care of the OGs when you get out on your own. Cover them on stops. You go and you take their paper. Don't ever let the OGs get stuck on paper. Take care of the OGs. And I started to build my reputation. And that they told me, they're like, that's the best way to build your reputation. Take care of the OGs. Um, Handle your own beat, but handle everybody else's beat. Your sergeant lets everybody out early on Thanksgiving, on Christmas, on New Year's. You better be the last one driving out of that division. You're a rookie. Act like it. And I took it to heart. This is coming from, OGs, senior guys. And there was something about the OGs and the senior guys that was easy to do. That wasn't hard because coming from the environment and the way that I grew up, like OGs, you respect them. Like, you listen to them, you listen to their advice, you listen to what they have to say. So I was like, oh, that's easy. Like, I'm going to take care of the OGs. And I did. Like, I would be getting stuck on paper. I'll be taking reports, and, I'm stuck at the end of my shift doing 3, 4, 5 papers. And I type like this. Like, I don't, guys at work, like, they just look at the screen and they're typing like this. Not me. I'm like typing like with one finger, real quick. And I still make mistakes. So, so it just took me, it took, uh, it took a lot of time to get into the groove of things, but I feel like I got into it. Uh, I feel like I got into it pretty quick as far as like the like the fast pace, like the fast pace of proactivity. I got exposed to a lot of stuff really early in my career, in the beginning of my career.
What do you think was the hardest thing to adjust to as a rookie cop?
The schedule, the like the graveyard shift, um, the very early on in my career, like the first month, I know this now looking back on my career, but I didn't know how much information I wanted to share with my wife about my shift, and I didn't know how much information that she wanted to hear. I didn't know if she wanted to hear the details of, the dude that smoked himself, or the SIDS deaths, or the drowning, or the I almost did this. I remember one time coming home and it was like 11 o'clock in the morning. My wife was a stay-home mom. We had two young boys at home, and I came home at like 11 in the morning, and we normally get off at 7 in the morning, but you're stuck on overtime doing paper. And I tell her, I come home and I'm excited. And I was chasing behind some gangster, and, he was running from me. He turned the corner and I'm chasing him. He reached into his waistband and he tossed a gun, but I thought he was going to turn around and shoot me. And I unholstered and I almost shot him in his back, like crazy ass night. And I remember her like just looking at me like, dude, I haven't eaten breakfast. I haven't slept. Like, I haven't brushed my teeth. I haven't showered. I don't care about take the kids, take the kids, like, help me out. Like, I don't care about your story right now. Like, cool story, but you need to help me out. And I realized that now, looking back at the beginning of my career, that our conversations became shorter and shorter and shorter every single day. I would come home and I had no gas in the tank. I couldn't even make simple decisions when she would ask me, like, are you hungry? I'm like, yeah, I'm hungry. What do you want to eat? I don't give a shit. Like, leftovers, order pizza. Like, you want me to go pick up some food? Um, she would ask me, like, how was your night? How was your shift? Did you do anything crazy? I'm like, nah, I was busy. I'm tired. It was crazy. Like, the conversations became shorter and shorter and shorter when I came home. But her and I we never even addressed it. I don't even, I'm positive that we didn't even notice it. I only notice it now looking back at it. I'm like, dang, it was like the first month. Like, the first month of my career, it already began impacting home life. And I didn't know what that feeling was of not being able to make a decision, to being completely empty, no gas in the tank. I never felt that. I never felt that working as a security officer. I never felt that working as an animal control officer. I never felt that working as a youth correctional officer. Never felt that feeling in my life. So I didn't know. Like, I didn't know what it was. I think that's probably the adjustment that most people don't realize is happening in the beginning of their career. Um, I think that's probably like the biggest adjustment. It's a shift change and adjusting to home life, going from work and then going back home. Like, you're no longer a cop. We think we are. We think we're cops. Like, when we get home, we think that we still have the authority. When my wife was like, "You don't run shit here." You know what I mean? You don't run shit here. Like, don't tell me to sit down, stand up, turn around. I didn't. But in your mind, you're like, you still feel like you have to play that part. I think it's just automatic. I don't think we even think about it. We just get home and we start barking orders to our kids or, family members and stuff. And we don't realize that you have to adjust. Like, you're a cop for work. You might have the power and the authority to tell people what to do, what not to do. I need you to stand here, not there, whatever it may be. Pull over, give me your license and registration. But when you're at home, you're just dad and husband. That's the hardest adjustment.
This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. It's the holiday season, the best time of the year for sports, bowl games, basketball matchups, playoff pushes. It's all happening at once. And while you and I are out here making decisions every day, what gifts to buy, what to eat, which game to watch, there's one place where it feels good to be right: Prize Picks. I've used Prize Picks before, and I'm telling you, it makes watching sports way more fun. The first time I tried it, I couldn't believe how simple it was to get started. You download the app, hop in, and you're already making lineups in like 30 seconds. And the crazy part, Prize Picks is available in 45 states, so chances are you can play wherever you're watching from. I remember my first lineup, I picked more on a couple players I already loved watching, and suddenly I'm invested in every play. Even my friends who didn't know much about sports got into it once they started making their own lineups. Now, they're texting me every week asking who I'm picking, and Prize Picks keeps adding features. Early payouts. If your lineup starts off hot, you may now have the option to cash out before the game even ends. And I love how straightforward Prize Picks is. The payout multipliers make it super easy to understand exactly what your lineup can win. Prize Picks is simple to play. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player projections. Make your lineup, and if you're right, you could cash in. And you can mix sports too: basketball, football, whatever you want in the same lineup. So if your fantasy team already fell apart this year, like mine usually does, you don't have to wait for next season. Prize Picks lets you enjoy fantasy every single week during the holidays. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code IANBIC to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code IANBIC to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Tell us about the first significant event that happens in your career.
Yeah. So, 8 months into my career, I'm still brand new rookie. I'm out of phase training. 8 months, May 27th of 2018. I come into work, still working graveyard shift, and my wife calls me, and she says our oldest son, he was about 2 years old at the time, he just fell off this plastic slide. He's holding on to his right arm. I think he broke his arm. I'm going to take him to the emergency room. So I said, okay, it's graveyard shift tonight. It's going to be a slow night. I will go meet you at the hospital when I clear a lineup. And why the hell did I think May 27th of 2018, Memorial Weekend, graveyard shift, a Saturday night was going to be a slow night? I was going to have time to do anything. I was young, dumb, and stupid. So I go into lineup, we clear lineup. I go load my car, we log onto the computer, and my partner and I, he's a main character of my story because he was with me on a whole bunch of my incidents. We log on to the computer. We have a domestic violence call holding in our beat down in San Isidro. We go down to San Isidro. We handle it. It's a big nothing. We're about to walk away. There's no crime. Nobody's going to jail. And as we're clearing the call, my partner, my sergeant, they were both 10-4 that I was going to go to the hospital, check on my son. And as we're clearing the call, dispatch puts out that there was a Hispanic male on the north side of our division, armed with a knife, running around the intersection, chasing people in vehicles. And this is like 10:30 at night. So, and my partner and I, we never shied away from, he was more senior than me, and we never shied away from anything. So we're like, let's go help out. Let's go handle it. By the time we get there, it's going to be all done anyways. It's not even in our beat. So we're not going to take any paper on it. Somebody else is going to take the paper. So we start driving up there. They update the call that Border Patrol has one at gunpoint. So Border Patrol happened to be driving through the intersection. Bad guy chases a wrong car. Now they have him at gunpoint. So we get there, and when we arrive on scene, it's myself and 3 other San Diego PD officers that were on scene, and a shit ton of Border Patrol officers running around. They're running around everywhere. And there was a point where when we walk up to the scene, Border Patrol has the suspect at gunpoint, but he had already been pushed. The suspect had pushed him all the way up into the intersection, and there was a bunch of bushes around him, right behind him. There was nowhere else for him to go. And I remember thinking like, oh damn, he's gonna shoot him, because the suspect kept going like this, like making like movements like he was gonna rush him. And he didn't. And for whatever reason, that Border Patrol agent just decided not to shoot him. And I don't Monday morning quarterback anybody. That shit's been done to me. I don't do it to other people. The people that talk the most shit as to like, why didn't that person shoot? Those are people who haven't been involved in anything. And the people who have been involved in shootings or have been involved in critical incidents, they don't talk shit because they know like, hey, I wasn't there. Like, I probably would have done this, but I don't know. I wasn't there. I wasn't breathing it. I wasn't smelling it. I wasn't seeing it. I wasn't hearing it. Like, it's hard. You can't judge most of the time, right? You can't judge, somebody as to why they didn't or why they did something. because you just weren't there. You weren't seeing what they were seeing, whatever it may be. But for whatever reason, that BP agent decided not to shoot the suspect. We end up shooting 4 taser deployments. Um, 3 of them impacted the suspect, ineffective. There was about 10 beanbag shotgun rounds that went off, ineffective. We were giving him verbal commands to drop the knife, get on the ground. Everything was ineffective. There came a point where the suspect runs away. I go chasing him. He runs right back into the intersection. He's kind of bouncing around. He's looking at, all 4 San Diego PD officers, including myself, that are standing in front of him. And he kind of like runs, like kind of like rushes us a little bit and backs up. We don't shoot him. And he's kind of bouncing around. He's like looking around at all 4 of us. He's bouncing around. And then I remember just locking eyes with him, and everything just went silent. The way I explain it, or I describe it, is like the world just stopped spinning. I went completely deaf. I didn't hear anything. I remember locking eyes with him, and I remember thinking, he's gonna run towards me right now. He just had this look in his eyes, like he was gonna run towards me, and he does. He run towards me. I start firing. A 6-year veteran, and then his trainee. All 3 of us shoot the suspect as he's running towards me. And I remember when I was firing, I remember watching every single one of my brass getting ejected out the side of my gun. I mean, it was tumbling like in slow motion in the air. The smoke from my gun light was rising up. Like I remember seeing the smoke like just slowly rising up as I was shooting. I remember like I felt like I remember watching every single round going down range, impacting the suspect. He drops to the ground. He's holding the knife in his hand still. I'm yelling, "Hey, drop the knife. We got to get your medical attention." And he doesn't drop the knife, but his belly starts to like do this like quiver, like it starts to like shake. And you could tell by the time he hit the ground, his belly started to kind of like bloat, like it was getting filled with blood. Like his belly started to like, it was already rising, and his belly starts to kind of quiver, and his arm gets like real like rigid. It goes right up in the air, and then he goes limp. At the time, I didn't realize that he was dying. Like he was dying. He was dying in front of us. We go in, we take him into custody, and fire comes in. And I always say this joke: fire comes in because they're not first responders, they're second responders. They wait for us to clear the scene, make it safe for them, and then but they're still the heroes, so I can't talk shit. We're not the heroes, they are. They come in, they start working on the suspect, and my adrenaline is through the roof. I mean, I felt like my sweat was like as thick as syrup. Like it felt like slime coming out of my pores. I was like hyperventilating. I was trying to take deep breaths, and I felt like I couldn't get enough air in my lungs. I'm like pacing back and forth. Like people were asking me questions. "Hey, did you shoot?" I said, yeah, I shot. And as I'm pacing back and forth, fire's working on the suspect. The suspect, his head never moved, but his head is like tilted to the side. And I remember him tracking me back and forth with his eyes. And like, it was from the moment we both locked eyes with one another to the moment that he died. It was like we never stopped staring at each other. It was just this weird, it was weird. And I went completely deaf. I didn't hear my rounds go off. I didn't hear anybody else's rounds go off. I felt no recoil in my gun. It was a trip. So suspects ends up dying right in front of me, in front of all of us. And the entire homicide process starts. We get taken back to, Southern Division. The chief and the captain, the lieutenants, they walk up to us. "Hey, good job. We're glad that you're not hurt." My peer support officer comes, and my peer support officer, he was an OG. Jeff, he was a OG. He had been in 4 officer involved shootings in his career. He did like 29 years on the department. I remember him walking up behind me. He was like, "Hey man, I'm Jeff Sterling. I'm gonna be your peer support officer. And I've been in 4 officer involved shootings, and I'm here to walk you through the entire process. I'm not going home until you go home. If there's any questions that you have, I'm here to help you. I'm here to answer them." I was like, "All right, perfect." Our lawyer comes, and I sit down with my lawyer. We watch our body worn camera footage. I give her my statement, and then we watch our body worn camera footage. And then, she's like, "Yeah, you know what? This is a good shoot. You could go ahead and give your statement to homicide." And then we got transported back to the scene to do a walkthrough with our homicide unit. And it's basically like, hey, that the person laying in the middle of the street, that's the person I was shooting at. I shot this direction. I shot this about this many rounds. I think I was here when I started shooting. And it's pretty brief. But I remember when we went to do the walkthrough, the community was already out. And remember, this is Memorial Weekend on a Saturday night. The community was already out, and I remember hearing like people yelling, "You fucking killers, fuck you pigs, you fucking pigs, you fucking murderers." And I just remember that. I remember feeling a certain way about that, hearing that, thinking, damn, the community that I was born and raised in, the community that I thought I was going to make a difference in, a positive difference, the community that I thought that I was going to be able to change their mind or their perception of law enforcement, now has so much anger and hate for me. And I was trying to save my life. Like, the guy's running towards me with a knife. Like, I thought I did the right thing, but not in their eyes. And it fucked with me a little bit. That I remember that immediately, like, wow, like, that's fucked up. Like, they don't even know what happened, and they're calling me a murderer. They're motherfucking me. You know what I mean? It was, and for an 8-month cop, like, I'm a baby cop. Like, it was a lot. I get transported to headquarters. I provide my homicide statement. And then, you go to the lab, you submit your firearm and all your magazines, you give your gun up. And then you go into this big white room and they take pictures of you. You put your back up against this wall. It's like, like prison photos, right? You put your back up against the wall. There's measuring tape on the wall to see how, tall you are. And they tell you, look straight ahead at the camera, click, click, put your arms out, flip them over, put your arms out. And now the same pictures that I used to take of the criminals when we take them to jail, when we're trying to identify, when we're trying to document them as gang members, when we're identifying them, taking pictures of their tattoos, whatever it may be. Now those pictures are being taken of me. And thank God I had my peer support officer there to explain it. He was like, "Hey, dude, there's 2 reasons why they're doing this: civil litigation. The family's going to come back and say, well, how did my family member know that was a cop? Did he identify himself as a cop? Was he dressed like a cop? Did he look like a cop? Did he have any other tools on him that he could have used to subdue our loved one who was having a mental health crisis? He wasn't a criminal. He was just having a mental breakdown, right? Could he have tased him? Could he use his baton? Could he have used his pepper spray? Did he have to shoot him?" So, civil litigation. And then he said, and, civil litigation, and you're a homicide suspect. You just killed somebody. It's a homicide case. And it was like, thank God I had him there to explain that to me. So, for an 8-month cop on the job, that was a lot to deal with. It kicked up protests. It kicked up marches. Not like the George Floyd, protests. Nothing. It wasn't to that extent. But for an 8-month cop on the job, to have people marching from the location of the OIS, going down to Southern Division, blocking the entrance, like they were, writing letters to the mayor, to the chief's office, like they were, they knew more information about me than I thought they knew. They knew my first, middle, last name, my date of hire, my current work schedule. Like, for an 8-month cop on the job, that was a shit ton to deal with. And here I am thinking I was going to make a positive difference in my community. And now I have people marching, calling out my name. And, it was a lot. Like, it was a lot. My shooting happened around 10:30 at night on a Saturday. I didn't get home until Sunday at 1:30 p.m. Long ass process, long ass day. I was tired. I get home, I'm drained, I'm exhausted, take a shower, start bawling. Let me back up a little bit. My son, my 2-year-old son, he ended up breaking his arm. He had a little blue soft cast on his arm. And I remember walking into the house, and I'm exhausted, and I remember him walking up to me, and he wrapped his left arm around my left leg to give me a hug. And I remember feeling absolutely nothing. I remember kind of just looking down at him. I saw the broken arm, I saw the cast. I looked down, and I kind of like pushed him off, and I go take a shower, and I just start crying, and it just came out of nowhere. I mean, I'm like the ugly cry, right? Like the you're sucking in your body, and I just like I was like 10, 15 minutes. Like I just was crying, and I get out, I go to sleep probably for like 5 or 6 hours. Woke up like, you know, uh, like around 5, 6 o'clock. And there was things that people told me the night prior after the shooting that that resonated with me. It stood out. There was three people who told me almost the exact same thing. My peer support officer, another guy who was on my squad, he was on vacation at the time. He had been involved in 3 officer-involved shootings, and a guy that I met during phase training, he had been involved in 1 officer-involved shooting. And they all told me the three almost verbatim, don't drink any alcohol. Give it a couple weeks before you drink any alcohol. Number two, stay off of social media. Don't read the comments, don't read the blogs, don't read the newspaper, don't watch the news. Nothing positive is going to come out of that shit. Don't do it. And the third thing they told me was tomorrow you're going to feel like shit, and it's perfectly normal. Your body created all these chemicals, adrenaline, dopamine, right? Your body's trying to flush all that stuff out. Drink a lot of water, get a good workout in, sweat it out. You should start feeling better in about 3 to 5 days. So when I woke up the next day, um, or when I woke up later on that evening, after I got home, I absolutely felt like shit. I had the worst headache. That was my chief complaint. I was nauseous. I was numb. People were calling me and texting me, "Hey, bro, how are you doing? How are you feeling?" I was like, "Dude, I'm good. I don't feel shit. I didn't feel shit towards my son's hug. I didn't feel shit towards his broken arm. I'm not scared about the process. I'm not second guessing what I did last night. I'm good. I think I'm good." I was nauseous. I couldn't eat that night. I had a headache. My headache was the worst headache. It was a very unique type of pain. Nothing I've ever felt before. It was just a very different type of headache. It wasn't like your hangover, your migraine, your flu. It was just unique. And I didn't say nothing to anybody. And life just kind of went on. We were placed on ice for like a total of 5 months, waiting to be cleared by the district attorney's office, by the department. Uh, Nobody in the department was telling us what was going on. We didn't know if we were in trouble. We didn't know what was happening. It took about 2 months, probably longer than 2 months, for the department to release our body worn camera footage. All during this time, these like protests and marches are kind of happening. And again, they're not big, crazy, protests, but they're protests, they're marches, they're marching down the street. Some of them were planned, some of them were unplanned. And for an 8-month cop on the job, man, it was a lot. It was a lot to deal with. My temper at home started to become shorter and shorter. I was more irritable. I didn't know what it was though. I was feeling like shit every day. I had a headache every single day. I'd find myself, um, it was like my brain and my body wanted peace and quiet, and I didn't know where to get it. With 2 young boys at home, there's no peace and quiet during the daytime. Like they're running around, they're screaming and crying and playing and throwing stuff, right? They're kids. And I would find myself like yelling at them, like, "Hey, quiet, like shut up." Like, and my wife would multiple times, my wife would step in like, "Hey, it's noon." Like they're kids, hey, it's 10 o'clock, like whatever it may be. They're kids, but I wanted everybody to shut the fuck up and to sit the fuck down. Watch the cartoon, be quiet, don't move, don't talk, watch the movie. My brain it was like starving for just peace, and I didn't know where to get it. It wanted silence. My brain started to become more and more like life at home became more and more kind of chaotic. Like it was just, I was just more and more irritable, and I didn't know what that was. I didn't know what was happening. And people would call me my peer support officer. He was an OG on the peer support team, solid guy, great at peer support. But he would call me, "Hey, bro, how are you doing? How's the wife? How's the kids? How's the family doing?" I'm like, "Oh, everything's good." Because you don't want to be the bitch, right? You don't want to be a bitch and be like, "Oh my God, I have really bad headaches. I'm nauseous every single day. Like my kids won't shut the fuck up." You can't like you're not gonna go and complain as an 8-month cop on the job. You're not gonna complain about anything. You're like, "Hey, this is a good shoot. Hey, bro, I'm good. I'm good. Everything is good. My wife is good. I'm good. I'm doing fine." And that's just the way I played it off. And I had my chief complaint was the headaches. It was every single day. Every single day. I woke up with headaches, man. I fell asleep with headaches. Nothing got rid of them. Tylenol, drinking caffeine, taking naps. Um, at home, that's all my wife saw was that I was taking more naps. I was an asshole every single day. I was becoming more and more of an asshole. I was irritable. Um, and then that's when the alcohol came into play. So 2 weeks after my OIS, or about 2 weeks, I took it to heart. The OGs told me stay away from alcohol, so I did, right? I get invited to the bar. Even though I felt like shit, I still went. And I remember drinking my first beer. And and I'm not over exaggerating. It was like the second or the third sip, like literally drinking it. And the headache was like gone immediately. And from that day forward, I started drinking alcohol every day. It was like a miracle drug. It's never ever failed me. It worked every single time. The headache went away. The nauseousness went away. I ate at the bar that night. I was smoking and joking. I felt like myself. I was talking shit to guys, like messing around. I felt like I could laugh again. I started drinking at home. I started drinking beers at home because I felt like, and I did. Like I would drink beers and I would play with my kids because the headache was gone. Because when you're feeling like shit, you don't feel like playing. You don't feel like laughing. When your head is hurting that much, when you're nauseous all the time, you don't feel like laughing and playing and rolling on the ground. But when I had alcohol in my system, I was like that fun dad again. Like I felt alive. I felt like I could have conversations with my wife. Um, I had energy to like do shit around the house, you know, clean up the house, like do the chores, like take out the trash, like without being asked. Like it was no problem drinking a couple of beers. Everything was good, and that caused issues at home almost immediately because first couple of days it was no big deal, but I'm drinking 2, 3, 4 beers every day now, and I didn't drink alcohol normally every single day off duty. That just wasn't I drink alcohol, but I wasn't drinking every single day. So my wife would be like, "Hey, is that your second or your third beer today?" And I'm like, "Don't you ever fucking question me on what number of fucking beer this is. Like, you have no fucking idea what I'm going through. Don't question me. You never questioned me before. You have no idea what it's like to shoot somebody and kill them, to sit there and watch them die. Your department is not backing you up. Where's the department? Release that body-worn camera footage to the public. Is somebody from the department gonna get in front of the media and explain to them what happened? You guys gonna have our back?" You have no idea that I'm waking up feeling like shit every single day from the moment I wake up to the moment that I go to sleep. You have no idea what I'm going through. You have no idea what it's like to have people protesting your resignation, your termination, marching and shit through the street. Don't you ever fucking ask me what number beer this is. I could fucking drink as much beer as I want. You don't have any idea what I'm going through. But it was impossible for my wife to know. I never told her. Obviously she knew that there was marches, like it was on the news. She knew that I had got into a shooting, but she didn't know how many rounds I shot. She didn't know that everything slowed down. She didn't know that I didn't hear my rounds go off. She didn't know that I sat there and I watched the guy die. She didn't know that I was having headaches, that I was feeling like shit every single day. I didn't let her in. I never let her into my world. I didn't tell her anything, but I expected her to know. I didn't tell her shit, but I expected her to some magical way know exactly what I was going through. and it was impossible for her to know. And she became that bad guy. She became the one that doesn't understand. It wasn't me, it was her. And so the arguments kicked up. And normally it was around the alcohol, normally it was around like, hey, this is your third beer and it's, 11 o'clock in the morning. But the headache started as soon as I woke up, and nobody knew. Yeah, nobody knew. I was I was beginning to suffer in silence, and I kept it under wraps, and nobody at work knew. Yeah.
Did it affect your performance at all at work?
No. In the beginning, no. I think later on down the line, as we get into the story, um, there was things that people started to realize, but it was hard for them to kind of put their finger on what was going on. But I kept it under wraps. Like I kept doing my job and kept plugging away. And again, we were giving an acting detective position for an 8-month cop on the job. Even the rookie, right? The kid that was in phase training, we didn't know what the fuck we were doing. We were like, acting detective. We barely know how to be a cop, let alone like acting detective. Hey, you're gonna do misdemeanor pack. What's a misdemeanor packet? I don't even know what goes in a misdemeanor packet. You know what I mean? Where the hell is the DA's office? You want me to drop these off at the DA? Where is that at? I don't even know where anything is at. So, yeah, it was an interesting start to my career.
Being benched for that long in the beginning of your career, do you think that affects your progress?
Absolutely. All the shootings that I was involved in, I was always placed on as an acting detective, and it became almost as a punishment. I don't think that was done on purpose. It wasn't done on purpose to punish anybody, but for me, it felt that way. And that's the reason why today the department doesn't do that too often anymore. But for me, it was like that's the reason why today I don't want to promote to be a detective. My future goal is to be a sergeant. I'm trying to skip detective, and even though all the OGs and people with people at work are telling me like, hey, and these are people that I respect, right? These are people, captains and lieutenants. They're like, dude, you gotta be a detective first. It's gonna open more doors for you in the future. And I'm like, I know, but just that word detective, like for me, it left a bad taste in my mouth because it was always like a punishment for me. At least it felt that way. Even again, the department, they weren't punishing me or any of us, but it just for me, it felt like a punishment. Like, oh, now I'm back acting detective again, So, and it does. Like you're 8 months on the job, and now you're out of work for 5 months. That's nearly as much time as you have on in the field, and you don't have any police work. Like you just been out of work. And it does take a little while to kind of get back into it, just to do you know, relearn the computer, and like, just being out of work for 5 months. It takes a little while to kind of get back into the rhythm of things.
So what happens next after those 8 months?
Yeah. So the 5 months.
5 months.
So they eventually cleared us. During those 5 months, I was involved in an off-duty incident. My wife and I are driving over this bridge. I see a girl on the opposite side of the rails. They tell us in the academy and in phase training, and they tell us all the time, do not get involved in off-duty incidents. Do not get involved unless you're going to shoot and kill somebody. Like if it's a domestic violence or something, call 911, be a good witness. Well, I got involved because I'm a shit magnet. I decided to get involved. My wife was with me in the car. It turns into this big fight on this bridge with this girl. And PD gets there. We take her into custody. And for me, I'm just like, oh, that adrenaline rush, right? Like I haven't had an adrenaline rush hit in 2 months. And now I get back into the car. I'm like, all right, babe, let's go eat. And she's like, I'm not hungry anymore. Like we're not going to dinner anymore. And I'm like, well, I am. So that wasn't a critical incident for me. And the reason why I bring that up is because that was a critical incident for her. And I never acknowledged it. I didn't realize how much that incident had affected her, which eventually affected our marriage. Completely ignored her, like completely ignored what she had just saw, what she had just gone through. She wasn't around violence growing up like I was. She didn't, the adrenaline rush, the way it affects me, didn't affect her that way. Um, she was afraid. She felt helpless, hopeless, like she saw things that I don't remember happening, like when this girl, she ended up climbing over the rails, and she tried to run and dart into traffic and get hit by a car, and when she didn't, when the car started swerving around her and car started to stop, she ran right back at the rails that she was originally at. She ran right past me, and she was gonna jump over, and like I grabbed her, and we did this twirl, and I guess my back hit the rail. My wife thought that her and I were both going to flip over the rail on the bridge and land onto the 5 southbound freeway. Um, I don't remember that happening. I don't remember getting on top of this girl. When I was punching her, I was trying to knock her ass out because I was trying to gain control of her. I didn't have any weapons on me. I had my gun on me, but I didn't have my handcuffs or anything else. So I'm trying to gain control of her, and I can't. Like, she's like kicking me, scratching me, and like headbutting me. And finally, like, I'm gonna knock her ass out. Well, when I'm sitting there punching this girl, uh, I don't remember guys pulling over on the bridge, and they were like huddled up in like 3 or 4 dudes, and they were like gonna go beat the shit out of me. They thought I was like beating my wife or my girlfriend out in the street. She saw all this, and I never acknowledged that. Like, I just never. And then life just kind of went on. Again, I'm drinking every single day. That incident happens. I get released back out to the field, and of course, hey, you doing all right? You ready to go back out to the street? Hell yeah, I'm ready to go back out to the street. Send me back out. They send me back out to the field. Um, my partner and I, we call it kinging up. So we're in the same car together. And we go out there, and we start getting after it again right away, man. The vehicle pursuits, the foot pursuits, the gangsters, the dope, the guns. Like, every single day, we're getting something. Right now, we're getting like pats on the back and attaboys at work, and the sergeant is calling me out during lineup, like, "Hey, talk about that pursuit you guys got into. Talk about the gun that you got off that proactive stop." And so, like, and me and my boy, like, we were like. He had like a year or maybe less than a year on than I did, so we're still brand new, but we're out there getting it. Boom, my like first second month back out in the field, my son's diagnosed with autism, the one that broke his arm. So now we have a therapist at our house all day long, 6 days a week. um my brain is already chaotic. Everybody at home is already irritating me. I can't even drink at home without somebody bitching and complaining to me, right? So I avoid home. I started avoiding home because work was so much easier to deal with than my kids. ABA therapy, doing all these different therapies, like trying to teach my son how to talk, I think they call it the PEX board. It's like they point to what they want to like do or eat or whatever it is. It's like their way to communicate. He was like nonverbal. He's not anymore. I can't get him to be quiet for a second anymore. But at the time, like, he was like nonverbal until he was like 3 years old. And but it was like chaos. Like, home was just chaotic. Arguing with my wife. I felt like I was walking on eggshells. This therapist is telling me, "Hey, you got to do this and not this. You're doing it wrong." The kids are loud. Everybody's always screaming. Everybody's always crying. Like, so I avoided home. Started hanging out with anybody and everybody, other than my wife and my kids. Started going out drinking, going to dinner. And then again, now you're like in the in crowd, right? Because now I got into a shooting. I'm out there getting it. Me and my partner were out there hustling. So it's like, "Hey, you guys want to have a couple of beers with us?" And as a rookie, you're like, "Oh, hell yeah. Like, I'm in now. I'm in." Um, Go to dinner, go to go to parties and hang out with people. And I started to do that, and um, none of that helped my marriage, but I thought that it was working. I thought it was working. I thought the alcohol was working, and it did. The alcohol worked every single time, and a lot of times it does. Like, it took away the headache, it took away the nauseousness, it took away that numbness. Um, it never failed me. The alcohol never ever failed me. It worked every single time. Um, I get into a second off duty incident that same year in 2018. I almost shoot this guy that I almost ran this guy over who was skateboarding. Uh, he was skateboarding through the intersection. I was turning into the intersection. I almost run him over. He starts gangbanging on me. He lifts up his sweater and he has a sawed-off shotgun in his waistband. And I'm off duty. I throw my car into park. I'm telling him, get on the ground, get on the ground. He's not following any of my directions. It was 2 times that I almost shot him. Once he turned his back to me, he started, he had his hands up and he started walking up this driveway. There was a corner house and he's walking up the driveway and his hands begin to like drop lower and lower. So I walk up to him and I almost shoot him. He ends up raising his hands back up in the air. He walks across the street to an apartment complex parking lot, starts walking towards this group of people that I didn't know. He didn't know, or I don't think they had any relation. But he's still armed with that shotgun in his waistband. And I finally made a decision, like, I'm gonna shoot him in the head. So I start walking up to him. I was gonna shoot him point blank in the face. He's staring at me. Those people were directly behind him. My goal was to get right in front of his face, pull the trigger, because I couldn't miss. I only had one shot. My backdrop was those people. I couldn't miss that round. So I was going to get right in his face and pull the trigger. And I was good with it. Like I was like, this is going to be a righteous shoot. This is going to suck. I'm off duty. I'm going to shoot somebody in the freaking head right now. I just had people protesting for a good shoot, but shit, I can't let this guy get close to these people. He's still armed with a shotgun. I start walking up to him. Some girl comes right in between him and I. Her and I, we start fighting over the shotgun that's in this guy's waistband. Boom, and it comes loose. I'm holding onto the shotgun. She ducks on the ground. He goes running. I go chasing him. The shotgun slips out of my hand. PD gets there. We end up fighting this guy. We take him into custody. And this was the moment where I get taken in now as a victim of a crime. I forgot how they wrote it up because I was telling the guy, hey, San Diego police, get on the ground. The gang unit guys, they interview me. And after the interview, one of the OGs tells me, he's like, hey, man, he's smiling at me. He goes, hey, this is a good off-duty incident. And I'm like, I got like 9 months, like 10 months on the job, right? I'm like, God, dude, I just been involved in one off-duty incident. I was involved in a shooting and now I'm involved in this shit. And I'm like, okay, like, what does that mean? And I'm nervous. And he's like, dude, this is a real gangster, real gun. You're not under the influence of alcohol. I hadn't been drinking that night yet. I drank afterwards, but I hadn't been drinking that night yet. And then he said, and he's not banging your wife, is he? I said, shit, I don't think he is. Let me call her and ask, right? But because normally off-duty incidents for cops, there's alcohol is involved, domestic violence, boyfriend, girlfriend, that kind, that's like the perfect recipe for a disaster for off-duty incidents for cops. And I get out of that interview and the guys at Southern Division were like, damn, Mike, you're a fucking shit magnet, bro. You shot some dude a couple months ago. You tried pushing that girl off the bridge, and then now you're just fucking with this guy who's trying to go home. And like everybody's like laughing and they're talking shit. They're like, dude, you're a shit magnet. Leave some work for us. And that was all fun. Like normally I would laugh, and I laugh at that to this day. Like it's all fun and stuff. But in the moment when they were telling me that, I was like, dude, I am a shit magnet. Like, why is this happening to me? 2 off-duty incidents. I don't hear anybody else at Southern Division or at San Diego getting involved in off-duty incidents. Why is this happening to me? Why me? And that's where that term like shit magnet, I started to like question, why me? Why is this happening to me? So that was my first year on the job. My first year on the job, I'm drinking every single day. Not nothing crazy, but I'm having, 2, 3, 4 beers every single day. Life at home is falling apart. I'm being non-existent at home. I'm working more and more overtime. I'm trying to avoid home. My goal every day was to leave the house when everybody was still asleep and to get home when everybody went to bed. So I didn't have to talk to nobody. I didn't have to hear the kids cry. I didn't have to be involved in any kind of therapy sessions. I didn't have to have a a therapist telling me, hey, you're doing it wrong, you're doing this. I didn't have to hear the bitching and complaining and the arguing and the fighting with my wife about how many beers I had. I started working more and more overtime, and I avoided the house. I avoided my family, my kids. Um, quickly became just an absent husband and an absent father.
So how bad does the drinking get for you?
Yeah, so the drinking starts to get pretty bad. So I'm drinking alcohol every single day at this point. Again, not a lot, one, two, three, 4 beers at the most. I'm not getting drunk or anything crazy like that. But 11 months after my first officer involved shooting, I got involved in a second officer involved shooting, and it came out as an active shooter. So this is on April 3rd of 2019. This is around 1 o'clock on a Wednesday. My partner and I, the one that I was with the first time, um, we have some guys stopped in a vehicle. I'm searching the car, and a radio call comes out, and so in my ear, the dispatcher puts out, all units be advised. One caller is reporting an active shooter down by the San Ysidro trailer park. Hispanic male is armed with an AK-47. He's actively shooting. So we get bogus calls down in San Ysidro all the time. People are high on meth. You know, you have your psych 5150 psych folks that they call in. They're like, hey, there's people chasing me with a gun. There's people chasing me with a knife. And we get there and somebody's just hiding in the bushes. They lock themselves in the Jack in the Box bathroom over by the border. And they're just high. We get these calls multiple times a week. So we were on the north side of the division, and when this call came out, so I remember getting out of the car, like sticking my head back out the car. I looked at my partner, and I was like, "What do you want to do, bro?" He's like, "One caller reporting an active shooter right across the street from Willow Elementary School. That's the school would be on lockdown. The school has a protocol on how they get a hold of our dispatch center. We'd be getting way more callers than just one caller." He's like, "You want to wait for a second?" I was like, "Yeah, let's do it. Let's wait for a second." So stick my head back in the car. I start digging around again, and I kid you not, man, within a matter of seconds, dispatch gets back on the air. And she says, all units be advised. We have multiple callers now reporting an active shooter at the San Ysidro trailer park. Hispanic male is armed with an AK-47. He is actively shooting and hiding behind vehicles. So my adrenaline, your heart starts pumping. I'm like, holy shit, right? This is game time. This is what we train for, the school shooters, these active shooters. I look at my partner, and they had like a pipe, and I had found like a pipe and dope or a little bit of dope or whatever. And I go back to the driver. I say, "Here, bro, get the fuck out of here." I give him his shit, and he gets back in the car, and we get in our car. We start heading down to San Ysidro, and we're rolling lights and sirens. And I remember putting in my mind, this is going to be fucked up, because I've been through this trailer park multiple times at this point in my career. Early in the morning, late at night, there's always kids out there. They're writing with chalk on the asphalt. It's a super poor Hispanic trailer park community. There's kids writing with chalk on the floor. They're jump roping. They're walking with each other. They're playing soccer. Like, there's always kids out there. When I get there, there's going to be kids laid out. And the way we train any law enforcement officer, you don't help the victims first. We contact the suspect, because there's still a suspect outstanding, right? We contact the suspect first. And even if there's a kid that's dying, gasping for air, shot, needs help, walk past that kid, contact the suspect. Don't look down at the ground. I remember I kept telling myself, don't look down at the ground. So we get on scene. Our air support unit, ABLE, we call it ABLE, our air support unit was overhead. They spotted the suspect on the south end of the trailer park, and he was drinking a soda. He wasn't armed with any weapon. So we get out. I throw on my hard plates. I snap one side of my hard plates, and I'm trying to snap it's like an external vest. It's for higher caliber weapons or higher caliber rounds. It's supposed to protect you from, but it's not going to protect you from an AK-47 round. But I'm trying to snap the other side, and I can't get it. The buckles won't snap into place. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I know I gained some weight. I've gained some weight over the past like year. I haven't gained that much weight. Like this thing should snap into place. I didn't realize that I had kept my body worn camera. It was still on my uniform, and I forgot to take it off and put it on the outside. So those couple of inches didn't allow like my buckles to snap into place. So I'm like, fuck it. I don't know what's going on with this thing. So Abel gets back on the air, and they put out, all units be advised, the suspect just picked up the AK-47 and he's walking northbound through the trailer park. So northbound is where we were at. We just didn't know where northbound he was going to pop out of. So I'm like, fuck it. I don't know what's going on with these buckles or with this hard plate. So I grab my AR, I charge it, and my partner that I was with, he goes one way with one officer. He goes to the right. I go to the left with like a 26-year veteran. We split up into two teams of two, and I immediately spot the suspect on the far west end of the trailer park, and he has the AK-47 down to his side. And I remember him and there was like this, like there's like a wooden fence, but it's all broken down. I could see right through the wooden fence. There's also a chain link fence close by, but I have a clear line of sight of the suspect, and he has a clear line of sight of me. He's looking straight down at us. I'm looking straight at him. He's kind of like marching with the AK-47. I remember him raising the AK-47 up, and then the round goes off. Boom. And it was the loudest fucking round I've ever heard. I don't know if you've ever gone shooting. You forget to put your ears on, and like, and most cops have done that, right? You forget to put your ears on, and like you're like, oh shit, like everybody starts shooting, and it's loud. It was louder than it was the loudest. The snap in the air, like this crack, it was like the air just cracked right in my ear, and I remember hitting the deck, and I come back up to take the shot from 100 yards away, and the suspect runs right back into the trailer park. So he goes into the trailer park. I no longer see him. The hunt is on. Now we're like, okay, I knew this was real the whole time. I knew it was real, but now it's really real, right? He just fired off a round like it's real. I go into the trailer park. My partner and I, the guy that I was with, we turn onto this kind of road alley in the trailer park. I'm expecting that suspect to be on the far end where I had originally seen him. He was a lot closer this time. And he had the AK-47 down. He's looking right at me. I'm looking right at him. I have no cover. So I'm in the middle of the road. My partner's standing right next to me, and off to his right is some cars. So there's cover to his right. And the suspect's looking right at me. He's kind of like marching within he's like raising up the gun a lot more exaggerated than he was the first time. I give him commands to drop the gun. He doesn't drop it. I remember him like kind of like turning, like he like kind of like turns to kind of like look at me. He just does this like weird, and he's like raising the gun up, and I fired 4 rounds from my AR. One strikes him in the thigh. I think the round went in his thigh, and it came out of his like butt cheek area. Another round hit him in his chest, came out of his back, and then another round hit the back of his head. I shot 4 rounds. The other round, I missed. The suspect immediately drops to the ground. We walk up on him, and I remember when I raised my AR up and I was looking through my red dot, I remember the suspect being right in front of me. Like, I was like, there's no way I was like, holy shit. Like, he's right in my face. He was like 10, 15 yards in front of me. He was right up in my face. And as we walk up on him, he obviously drops to the ground. We walk up on him, and I knew he was dead. He was already discolored. Like his skin was already like yellow, like going yellow. His like tongue, I remember his tongue was like kind of like sticking out of his mouth a little bit. His tongue was already purple. I remember his eyes were kind of like open, but it had that glaze, like he was dead. There was a little bit of flesh and like hair hanging off the back of his head. There was a small little pool of blood behind his head. I knew that he was dead. And but after we shoot somebody, we still need to render aid to that person. We need to try to save them. So I started doing CPR. All the blood starts to come out, and then the entire homicide process starts for me. Just 11 months later, that's when the alcohol began to kick in. Yeah, I got into my second officer involved shooting within 11 months from each other.
And is there anyone that's there to support you? I know there was the peer support officers, but further than that, are they assigning you to like a psychologist or a mental health therapist or anything like that?
Yeah, so we have critical incident debriefs, and that's done through our focused psychological services and peer support and all that stuff is there. It brings everybody who is directly involved in that critical incident, all the players that were directly there, including our dispatchers. We all come to the debrief, and we all kind of put the pieces of the puzzle together. It helps answer a lot of the questions, the unknowns, like, oh, where were you? You were standing there, or I was standing here. I shot because of this, and somebody else may have shot because of a different, reason, or they saw something different. So we do that, but there's no like mandatory, like, hey, you have to go to, the psychologist, or you have to go to counseling before you come out to the field. But our peer support. So I get assigned one of the OG gang detectives, Nestor, and both of my peer supporters. I still talk to them to this day. Awesome. They're both retired, but awesome men. And he calls me. He's like, "Hey, is anybody peer supporting you?" And I was like, "No, I just literally just got into a shooting like 3 minutes ago." I was like, "Nobody." He's like, "I'll peer support you." And before I hung up with him, he said, "Hey, Mike, have you called your wife yet?" And I said, "No, I haven't called her. I'll shoot her a text." He's like, "No, dude, call her. She needs to hear your voice. She needs to know that you're okay. Call her and let her know that you're okay." And this is coming from an OG gang detective, right? I was like, all right, I'll listen to you. Well, there's a problem with that. Me and my wife aren't doing well. We're arguing all the time. Life at home is falling apart quick. We hadn't spoken to each other in 3 days up until this point. And that was a short argument. We've gone 2-3 weeks without saying shit to each other. If it had nothing to do with the kids, we'll walk right past each other in the house and not say anything to each other. So this particular day, it was 3 days we hadn't spoken to each other. I called her, told her I had been involved in a shooting. I get transported back to Southern Division. And when I got there, it felt like a hero's welcome. The chief, the executive chief, all the assistant chiefs, captains, and lieutenants. Southern Division was filled with brass. This is on a Wednesday. It came out as an active shooter across the street from an elementary school. So everybody and their mom is coming down to Southern Division to assist. I get there, and you have like chiefs and captains and lieutenants like shaking my hand, like giving me a hug, patting me on my back. "Man, good job. Job well done. You're a hero. You saved lives today. We're proud of you. You should be proud of yourself." All kinds of good stuff. There's nothing wrong with that. That's all good. But I didn't feel like a hero. I had a headache that day. I felt like shit. I felt like shit every single day at work. This day was no different. And I couldn't understand why was this happening again. I know how rare one officer involved shooting is. 87% of every single, and maybe now that I'm going to be on this podcast, maybe somebody can either correct it or they can confirm it. I've heard this number 3 times. It was once at a retreat, once at a training, and once at a conference. 87% of every law enforcement officer in the entire nation, including your federal law enforcement, city, state, local, 87% will never be involved in an officer involved shooting. 87% will never do it in their entire career. And I just did it twice in 11 months. And I also been involved in 2 off-duty incidents, and I'm drinking alcohol every single day. I'm avoiding my family. I'm avoiding my kids. Life at home is absolutely chaotic. I'm avoiding just being in my house. Why is this happening to me? Why me? And I go through the entire homicide process. I get home that night, and the OG, peer supporter, he told me like, "Hey, don't drink any alcohol." Well, I drink alcohol every day now. Stay off of social media. don't read the news, don't watch the news, don't read the newspaper, don't read the comments, the blogs. I did. When I got home, I read it. He was 1,000,000% right. Nothing positive comes out of that shit. The third thing, you're going to feel like shit tomorrow. I feel like shit every single day. So bring it on. Whatever life has to throw at me, I'll take it. I get home that night. I start drinking. I end up going to sleep. And I woke up that same, that morning at like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And dude, when I woke up, I had this energy. Like, have you ever waken up and you just have like a whole bunch of energy? It's like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. You know that you're still tired, but you're like, I'm not going to sleep anymore, right? Like you're awake. You're awake. And I was like, oh my God, I had all this energy. I could feel it in my gut, like hyperness. But I knew that was all normal. I know that everybody has different reactions to critical incidents. I've talked to people who, they sleep a lot. Some people sleep very little bit. Some people eat very little. Some people talk a lot. Some people have the shits for a couple of days. Full blown diarrhea. That some people have no reaction to major critical incidents. Everybody has a different reaction. I knew that this was just a reaction that I was having to another abnormal situation that I was involved in. And it was normal. It was normal to have this reaction. From that day forward, my sleep never went back to normal. I couldn't go to sleep sometimes. I couldn't stay asleep. I would wake up at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm tired, like I'm dead tired, and I couldn't shut it down. I was giving that acting detective position again for like another I was on ice for 2 months, which is like that's okay. Like it takes some time for you to go back out to the field and for the DA, the department, to kind of clear you and look at everything and make sure everything is all good, make sure you're good before they send you back out to the field. And so I was on ice for about 2 months, and my sleep never went back to normal. I was giving that acting detective position. I would go to work sometimes with no sleep, 24 hours of no sleep, tossing and turning all night long, never go to sleep. There was a handful of times through this entire process up until, the end, where I would go 2 days without sleeping. And you feel like shit, like your clothes are rubbing up against your skin, you're uncomfortable, you feel oily and greasy after you shower. You feel like you have like fuzz or like lint on your ear or on your face. You're naturally paranoid. There's like this natural paranoia, like you can't look somebody in their eyes when you're talking to them because you feel like they know that you have been awake for 2 days straight. There's just this weird paranoia when you just haven't slept. So started drinking even more. I'm putting down more than 1, 2, 3 beers. Like I'm putting them down a little bit more because it was worth it. It worked. I was able to go to sleep. It shut the brain off. Like it was, even though I felt a little crappy the next day, even though I felt like this is probably not the healthiest way to do it, it shut the brain off. I was able to get a night's rest. So I thought, and I'll learn something eventually down the line. But I was able to shut the brain off. I was able to go to sleep. It was worth it. Nobody knew what was going on. Nobody knew what was happening. About 2 weeks after my second incident was when the nightmares kicked up, and those were fucked up. I'd wake up crying. I'd wake up like kicking or like punching. Like I would like kick and I'll like punch and I'll like wake up sweating. I'd wake up with like my back, my sweat dripping down my side of my cheek. I'm like, what the like I've never had that happen before. It felt like I had just like ran a marathon, like my heart beating out of my chest. You feel your heart beating out the side of your neck. I was able to hear and feel my heartbeat out of my eardrums. I would wake up from my nightmare sometimes. uh, jump out of bed. I'd run over to my drawer. I'd grab my gun. I'd run into the kitchen. I would open the blinds and I'd sit out there and I would stare at shadows in the middle of the night. I swore to God that the reason that I had just woken up from my nightmare was because I heard something outside. I thought the homies found out where I lived. I thought social media put my address on blast. I thought somebody recognized me when I was out and about. They followed me home because remember, your video, my first shooting, my video gets released to the public. Everybody knows what I look like. And not just me, it's any law enforcement officer. We get involved we get involved in a shooting, your face is out there for the public to see. What you've done is out there. Everybody knows what you look like, but I don't know what you look like. I don't know who's after me. I'm sure the family isn't happy with me. I'm sure family and friends probably are not happy with me. They know what I look like. I don't know who I'm supposed to watch out for, right? I was paranoid. So I would I don't even know where I left off at. So I would wake up from my nightmare, start looking at shadows, and I'd sit there and I'll stare at shadows. I mean, it's the weirdest thing, but you're sitting there staring at shadows, and I'm like, did that move? Oh fuck, that did move. I'm gonna wait till that motherfucker comes up to the front door. And even if he doesn't have anything in his hand, I'm gonna fucking blast him. And you're like planning all this stuff out, and you're sitting there and you're looking at this shadow, and then you start to feel something trickling down your eye, because when you don't blink for like 2, 3, 5 minutes, your eyes start to like water up, and I'm like, I'm like wiping away like these like tears, and I'm sitting there looking at shadows, and my hands are shaking, my palms are sweating, I have my gun in my hand, and it was horrible. Like it was those nightmares, the paranoia, the clearing my house at 2 or 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like doing like dynamic entries into my living room and into my bedrooms because I know that I'm going to kill somebody inside of my bathroom. I knew I heard people talking in my backyard. I knew they were there. I also knew that I was tripping. I knew that I was becoming more and more paranoid, but it felt so real. When you're in the moment, you're like, is that shadow really moving or am I tripping? And then you're like, oh fuck, I think I just heard like a whisper. I think I just heard. And it's if you've never experienced it, it's hard to explain how real in the moment it feels. But in the back of your mind, you know that you're probably tripping, but there's somebody in your house. Like there's somebody in my living room. So as time goes on, that's getting worse and worse. I'm not only clearing my house in the middle of the night, I'm looking out at shadows. Um, it, I start drinking even more, and now I'm getting fucked up, um, almost every single night, because what I learned quickly was if I got fucked up every night, the headache would go away, the nauseousness would go away. Um, I'd be able to sleep, and the nightmares went away. Now I understand that when you have that much alcohol in your system, your brain doesn't go into REM sleep. It disrupts your REM sleep. REM sleep is where you dream. It's where you have nightmares. It's the best quality sleep that you could get. It's where your body, heals itself, right? Where your brain, clears all the junk out. REM sleep is the best type of sleep. I was starving my brain from going into REM sleep, which didn't help the paranoia, because now like you're like pushing yourself into psychosis. I didn't know that. I learned all this later down the line, but in the moment I was like, hey, it's working. The headaches go away. I'm able to sleep. The nightmares go away. and it was worth, the hangovers were worth it the next day. Throwing up that night, it was worth it. Feeling like shit the next day, it was worth it. It was all worth it, because you're just able to turn off your brain. Nothing else worked.
How long until you go back on duty after this second shooting?
2 months. So 2 months. And that was nobody's fault but my own. The captain, lieutenant, my peer supporter, hey, how are you doing? How's the family doing? Are you ready to go back out? How do you feel about going back out? Oh, I'm good. Send me back out to the field. I'm good to go. My wife's a stay-home mom. We need the money. I need to work overtime. I started working more and more and more overtime. It was to avoid home. I didn't get the attention at home. That ego, we need to feed our ego. All the pats on the back, the guns and the arrests that you make, and they're like, oh shit, bro, hell yeah, that was a good ass arrest. Whatever it may be, that fed my ego more than trying to be a husband or trying to be a father to my kids. I became a piece of shit dad. I was absent. I was an absent and piece of shit dad, father, husband, family member. Stopped going to family functions. I got there really late, left really early, or I didn't show up at all. By the time I went back out to the field, my wife and I decided to divorce. The arguments at home, man, were they were ugly. They were nasty. Cussing each other out, screaming and yelling. You get home from work, you get into a fight with your significant other, you start screaming and yelling, you wake up the kids. My kids were small, and when your kids are that small, naturally they're going to go to mama, right? They're not going to go to dad. They're going to go, you're the bad guy. Even if I didn't start the fight, even if I was the victim of the fight, right? Like, it wasn't my fault. I'm the bad guy now, no matter what. We start going through we decide to divorce. She takes the kids. She's staying with family and staying with friends and staying at hotels. And I'm doing the same thing. I'm staying at, we get into fights and I'm like, I'm fucking out of here, right? So I'll stay at family's house, stay with friends, stay at hotels. You come home at midnight. You have to be at work. You start work the next day at 6 a.m. You get into a fight with your significant other. You don't go and call a friend at 1 o'clock in the morning or a family member. You stop doing that after the second week. That shit gets embarrassing. It's embarrassing to let people know, like, oh yeah, I'm not doing good again. Like, we're getting into another fight. Can I crash at your house? So you don't do that anymore. You don't go and rent a hotel. You're only going to sleep for 3 hours. You got to be starting at work at 6 a.m. the next day. So you just go crash out in your car. I'd get in my car. I'll go to the police station. I'd rack out in the back parking lot. Nobody knew I was doing it. Nobody knew what was happening with me. But the fights, man, the fights were ugly. Trying to win my kids' love, because I knew that when we divorced, she was going to take the kids. Maybe if I'm the fun dad, if I buy them toys and buy them candy, they would love me a little bit more than they love their mom. Maybe they would want to stay with me and not stay with their mom because I'm the fun parent. And there was all these things that I was living this, like, I was just living this life of, like, in here was just chaotic, but I'm trying to be that, like, stand-up guy at work. And I mean, if you needed something done, hit me up. I'll get it done. You need me to work overtime? Hell yeah, Sarge, I got you. I'm right here. You guys are short today. I got you. I'll work overtime. You could depend on me. I'd get the job done. And nobody at work, nobody knew what was going on. I kept it under wraps. Obviously, my wife knew that there was stuff that was going on with me. She knew that I was drinking more. She knew that I was having, like, nightmares. She would hear me, like, like making noises, or like she would see me, like, get startled at night. She told me, like, there was times where I would see you and you, like, do this, like, twitches, or you would, like, wake up and, I was all paranoid. I was like a tweaker. I was like a I was like a sober tweaker. So yeah, life got bad. It started to uh, I eventually went back out to the street after 2 months, but again, nobody knew, and it was nobody's fault. I just kept it under wraps. I didn't say shit to nobody.
What happens next?
7 months later, November comes around of that same year, 2019, and I get released back out to the street. I'm out there still getting it. Work, I'm getting, like employee of the month. I'm getting, supervisor and captain, write-ups and commendations and attaboys during lineup. I'm not calling out sick. I'm not late to work. I'm working overtime. My reports, my investigations, they were on point. um, I was still being proactive. I was handling my beat. I was handling other people's beat. Like I'm still out there. I'm riding under the radar. Nobody has any idea, what's happening with me. But when I got released to go back out to the field, my risk taking behavior skyrocketed. Stopping 2, 3, 4 gangsters at night, searching them by myself, not calling for backup, finding a gun or two in the car, being the first one on scene to the most violent calls without waiting for my backup. Walking into an apartment complex or into somebody's house or into somebody's apartment, not updating my location with dispatch. I mean, you should tell them like, hey, I'm gonna be walking into unit like 222 or whatever it may be. Just doing it, driving fast on and off duty for no reason. My risk-taking behavior skyrocketed, and it wasn't because I didn't want to commit suicide. I wasn't there yet. I always tell people that I was probably weeks from contemplating it. I just didn't want to be around anymore. I didn't want to die. I just didn't want to be here. If I just wasn't around, life would be better for everybody. My wife, my kid, me, that chaos, the peace. The most peace that I got was when I was asleep because it was quiet. As soon as I wake up, it's like, oh man, everything, your day gets started, right? And you just don't know what kind of day you're gonna have. The most peaceful time was when I was sleeping, and I didn't want to commit suicide. There's no honor in it. There's none at all. And I say this during my presentations that like nobody, and it's very true. Like I had people come up to me like, dude, you're fucking spot on. Like it's so true. Nobody's creating a GoFundMe for your family. If they do, people aren't donating after you killed yourself. There's no memorial. We're not doing a memorial run for you next year. The funerals are fucking awkward. They're odd. They're weird. They don't feel good. Everybody knows you killed yourself. I've been to them before. I didn't want to commit suicide, but in my mind, I'm like, if I get killed on duty, vehicle accident, shot, killed, I'm a hero. That's honorable. That's an honorable death. I can go out like that. I could do that. That was such an easier pill to swallow. And I knew that when I'm pulling these gangsters out of the car, or when I'm yanking people out of the car, searching them by myself, when I'm going into people's houses, you know where all your weapons are at inside your house. I don't. I don't know which drawer your weapon is at. When I'm yanking people out of a car, when I'm showing up first on scene to the most violent calls where somebody's possibly armed with a weapon, I know that action is always quicker than reaction. You'll always get your gun out first before I do. You'll get that shot off first. I knew that. Being killed on duty was more honorable. I can go out that way. And so I just that was the that's that's what I was living like in here. Um Again, I didn't want to die. I didn't want to kill myself, but just if I just wasn't around, life would be better for my family. That screaming and yelling, that constant, acid filling in your stomach from the moment you wake up because you know that you're fighting with your significant other and they're gone, they're at a hotel, they're not answering your text messages or phone, like just everything, man. It'd just be peaceful. Um, a few months after I got released out to the field, was like November of 2019. I get I go to a work function. I don't want to get too much into that, but I go to a work function, have too much to drink. It wasn't anything. It wasn't a big. We weren't celebrating anything big. Everybody just had a beer. It was a real quick little meetup, and I had a little too much to drink, and the reason why is because I didn't have any alcohol at home, and I knew like, hey, I can't leave from this function. I'm gonna get my fix here at the bar. So start drinking beers and shots, and I hung out for like 30 minutes, and I mean I'm just like I'm just taking it down, and go home. The next day I come into work. My sergeant says, "Hey, after lineup, I need to talk to you in the office." I was like, "All right." So after lineup, we go into his office, and he's like, "Hey, what the fuck happened last night, man? Where did you go?" I was like, "I went home, Sarge." And he's like, "Yeah, but why'd you drink like that?" Everybody had a beer. One. You had like shots and beer, like you were I was like a one man party. You know what I mean? He's like, You're the only one drinking like that." Um, and I said, "Damn, Sarge, I didn't realize I was drinking like that. I'm sorry that I put you in that situation. I didn't mean to drink like that. It's a one time thing. It won't happen again." He said, "Hey, Mike, I don't know too many people in this department who have been into back to back OISs like you have so early on in their career. But if there's something that's going on with you, you need to tell me. I can't help you if I don't know. Sarge, I swear to God, everything is good. Wife is good. Kids are good. I'm good." He's like, "I can't imagine what's happening, right? I can't imagine what's happening at home, but I played it all off. Hey, everything is good. Everything is good." And he said, "Well, just know that I'm here. If you need something, come to me so that I can help you. I want to help you." I said, "I appreciate it. Everything is good." He sent me back out to the field that night. So November 7th, I party like a madman by myself. November 8th, he talks to me. On November 9th, I get in my third officer involved shooting the following day. It was a home invasion robbery suspect. It takes an F-150 from the home. The next day, shoots at somebody. Shoots at somebody inside their car. The next day, shoots at a house. Shoots at somebody inside their house or something like that. The following day, we catch the vehicle rolling. It turns into a vehicle pursuit, and I'm number two in the pursuit. My partner that I was with the very first part of my career, Amir. So we're both riding in the car together that night. The F-150 drives into a cul-de-sac. The number one PD vehicle follows it in. I'm number two in the pursuit. I try to bottleneck that cul-de-sac, so now the suspect can't come back out. And now it's like a face-off between his F-150, our SUV, and we're getting out of the car to conduct a hot stop, basically put the suspect at gunpoint, thinking that he's going to surrender. He can't really get out anywhere. Well, he rams the front of our SUV. Excuse me. He rams the front of our SUV, and I remember as it was kind of like rolling back. This is 11 o'clock at night, by the way, on a Saturday night. My partner is getting out of the passenger side door, and the F-150 floors it, hits the passenger side door shut. I see my partner stepping out of that door 1 second. The next second, he is gone. I start backpedaling to the back of the SUV, and as the F-150 is taking out our passenger side vehicle, I remember seeing this black object riding on the grill of the F-150, and I was like, "Holy shit, that's my partner. He just got ran over." Um, I can't let him get dragged down the street. I mean, literally riding the grill, like side. I thought he was like laying side because that's what it looked like. I can't let him get dragged down the street, riding the grill of that F-150. So I unholster and bang, 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 fire into the vehicle. The F-150 continues driving off. Suspect ends up throwing a gun out of the car, out of the truck. And as I'm coming back around to reholster my firearm, I remember on the left side of my peripheral seeing this black object flopping on the ground. And I remember before even turning around, just thinking, that's my partner. He's probably not going to survive that. I need to render aid to my partner. I need to help him, but I don't want to. I don't want to help him. I don't want to look at him. I don't want to deal with him. I don't want to see him. I have a lot of shit going on in my life right now. I don't know if I'm prepared to see or deal with what I'm about to deal with. Why is this shit happening to me? 3 officer involved shootings now in 18 months, and I'm still a baby cop. 2 off-duty incidents. Life at home is completely falling apart. It's already fallen apart. He's not going to survive this. Our squads are tight. Our family members know each other's family members. Our wives know each other's wives. We invite each other over to family functions. He just had a baby. He had just came back from baby leave with his firstborn son at home. What am I going to tell his wife tonight? What am I going to tell that kid in 6, 7 years? Is it my fault that he just got ran over? Should I not have positioned my vehicle here? Should we have not gotten out to conduct the hot stop? And I'm thinking all of this, dude, I'm telling you in a millisecond, like all these thoughts and everything is going through my mind. And I turn around to render aid to my partner who's flopping on the ground. And I realize that it's not my partner. It's the rear bumper of our SUV that's still attached to the rear driver's side. And it's kind of flopping like on the ground and in the wind. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I'm expecting to see a human and I'm like, what the fuck? And then my partner comes out and he looks at me and I'm like, let's get back into the pursuit. So we get back into the pursuit. The suspect ends up ditching his car. SWAT ends up getting him barricaded a few hours later on that morning in an apartment complex. The OG gang detective Nestor picks me up from the scene. He takes me back to Southern Division. And I remember saying something out loud like, I can't believe this shit is happening to me again. And he pulls his car over and he looks at me and he's like, hey, Mike, if God didn't think that you can handle this, he wouldn't put you through it. And I remember hearing that and I remember thinking, me and God parted ways a long time ago. I stopped going to church after my first OIS because I'm drinking every single day. It's awkward, right? When you go to church, you've had like 2-3 beers. That's awkward. Stopped going to church. The nightmares, the inability to sleep, the feeling like shit every single day, the hangovers, my marriage, my relationship with my kids are a complete disaster. Stop praying, stop begging, stop asking God for anything because nothing changed. And when he said that, I was like, dude, me and God parted ways a long time ago. Like, there's no God in my life. And then he takes me back to the division. And there was a lieutenant that had told me, hey, you've been through this before. You know the process. It's not your first rodeo. I highly encourage you to take the advice of your lawyer when they get here. And I was like, holy shit. And I remember like looking at my peer supporter and he like looking at me and I was like, dude, that doesn't sound good at all. Right. I'm in trouble. That doesn't sound good. And there was a reason why that scared the shit out of me. There was a female passenger in the car. So when the suspect was driving past us, he was driving passengers on this side and I'm on this side. But in the academy and in face training and when we're out in the field, law enforcement officers, we're expected to make a fucking decision. The worst thing that you can do is not make a decision. Sometimes we have some couple of minutes to make a decision. Sometimes there's a split second that we have to make a decision. And I made a decision. I made a split second decision to fire into that F-150 in an attempt to shoot and kill the driver, knowing there was a female passenger, because I could not sit there and do nothing while my partner was riding the grill of that F-150 and was going to get dragged down the street. I couldn't do it. I couldn't not do anything. So I made a decision. I go through the entire homicide process. Nobody's updating me on what's going on. Nobody told me that they ended up getting the suspect barricaded in the apartment. Nobody told me that they found the female down the street. She was not hit. She was hiding underneath a vehicle when they found her. Nobody told me that they found her. So I go through the entire homicide process. It was really quick. Nobody was shot. Nobody was killed. My peer supporter tells me, "Hey, did you call your wife?" And I'm like, "What wife? I don't really have a wife at this point, right? I don't really have one." And I said, "Yeah, I'll call her." I text her. We were going through the divorce still. We were living together. We were on talking terms that night, all that stuff. We were still going through our divorce. I text her. I said, "Hey, I just got into another shooting. I'm going to be late tonight." Crickets. Never got a response back from her. I make it home eventually early that morning, and I come into an empty house, and I could tell that the kids, were going to be gone for a while. Like there was a lot of stuff missing, and I started drinking that night, trying to put myself to sleep, and I couldn't. And Sunday comes around, and I'm still awake. And I'm getting calls from family and squad mates and captain and the sergeant, the lieutenant, and the executive chief called me. He left me a message. "Hey, this is Chief Guadarrama. Please give me a call back when you get this message." To this day, I've never called the man back. But he's retired, so I don't got to worry about it calling him anymore. But I never called him. I was like, man, I ain't calling nobody. I wasn't answering anybody's texts, phone calls, nothing. I just wanted to be left alone. And I remember the captain calling me. He said, "Hey, give me a call back in 5 minutes. If you don't, I'm going to send some folks to your house, do a welfare check, because there's some people that are concerned about you. Nobody's heard from you." And, and I was drunk as fuck. Like noon the next day, I'm drunk as fuck. And I called him. I was like, "Hey, Cap, like, don't send anybody over here. Like, I'm doing all right, man. I'm going through a lot of stuff right now. I'm good." He said, "Hey, are you going to be at the debrief tomorrow morning? On Monday, tomorrow morning?" I said, "Yes, I'll be there." So again, we do critical incident debriefs after an officer involved shooting. All the players that are directly involved, they get there, dispatch, all that stuff. We break down the incident. And there was a lot of good stuff, positive good stuff comes out of these debriefs. Let me backtrack a little bit. The second OIS with the AK-47, I realized, these debriefs also help clarify what happened and why things happened, because people talk. Like, cops, we're the worst to each other. Like, we think like, oh man, the community doesn't give a shit about us. We talk shit about each other. Like, we're worse to each other sometimes than the people out in the community are towards us. People Monday morning quarterback all the time. "Oh, why the fuck did that person didn't shoot? He was sitting there right next to you." So my shooting, I was the second shooting, the AK-47 one. I was the only one that shot. My partner that was standing right next to me, he didn't shoot. He saw the exact same thing that I saw. He didn't shoot. And people were like, "Dude, why the fuck did he not shoot?" Like, well, in the debrief, I learned that I was in the middle of the road with no cover. He was to my right, and to his right, there was cover, the vehicles. He thought as I began shooting that I was going to get behind cover, which would have been to his right. I would have had to step in front of his AR to get cover. He didn't want to shoot me. He thought that I was going to step in front of his barrel. So that was the reason why he didn't shoot. And I'm glad he didn't shoot, because if I would have, he would have blew the back of my fucking head off, right? So I'm glad that he didn't shoot. But everything happens real fast for people. Sometimes things slow down. Sometimes things happen quick. He didn't shoot, which is perfectly fine. I had no problem with it, but other people did. People were talking shit. Once I found out why he didn't, it not just me, but other people that were in the debrief were able to stop some of those rumors. Hey, dude, he didn't shoot because the only cover was to his right. If he would have been putting rounds down range, I would have stepped right in front of his barrel. He would have killed me, right? So you're able to stop some of these rumors. I also learned during that debrief that one of my rounds that I shot at the suspect entered a trailer that was right behind him that was occupied by a mom and like 3 of her kids. That that detail fucked me up pretty good because the kids were like as young as my kids were at the time. And I was like, man, these kids would never look at law enforcement the same. But there's a lot of positive things that come out of these debriefs. For this third OIS, my debrief was scheduled for Monday morning. Monday morning at 8:00 comes around. I'm supposed to be at Southern Division starting the debrief. I'm still at my house. I haven't slept since I woke up Saturday to go to work. I've been drinking for like 2 days straight now, you know what I mean? Or like a whole day straight. People were calling me, texting me, hey, dude, where you at? The debrief starts right now. I said, dude, I overslept. I'm on my way. Bro, I was trying to sober up. Like I was like, dude, I gotta be there right now. Like I was taking a shower. I was trying to drink coffee. Like I was trying to drink water, like trying to hydrate. But you can't, there's no sobering up after. And then I haven't slept for like 2.5 days, 3 days already at this point. Right. And finally I got enough courage. I was like, all right, made my way down to Southern Division. And I walk into Southern Division and I'm like looking down at the ground because I don't want to make eye contact with anybody. Because everybody, as soon as somebody looks at your eyes, they're gonna be like, dude, what the fuck's wrong with this guy, right? What's wrong with this tweaker? And I'm like looking down at the ground and I'm making my way to the lineup room, and our wellness unit was there to greet me. Deanna, Deanna, she was a civilian. She's a dispatcher by trade, but she had gotten her alcohol, and she was like an alcohol substance abuse specialist. She had went to school for that and all that stuff. She has a history of alcohol use also, and she's been sober for like 20, 30 years. So she was there. She was on our wellness unit, and the sergeant of the wellness unit was there. And as I'm looking down at the ground, they're like, "Good morning, Mike." And like I look up, like what the hell? And I was like, "Hey, good morning." And they were all like, how do you say, like bright eyed and bushy tailed, like they were like wide awake, and they had like 9 hours of sleep the night before, and they're like, "Good morning, Mike." They're like, "Hey, you're not in any kind of trouble. After this debrief, we would love to have you come up to the wellness unit office, and we're just to have a conversation. You're not in any kind of trouble." And I was like, dude, the wellness unit office is at headquarters in downtown on the 7th floor, the same floor that the cafeteria is at, the same floor that internal affairs is at, and the same floor that the chief's office is at. I was like, fuck no, I'm not in the condition that I'm not going. I'm not stepping foot over there. I said, hey, I got a lot of stuff to do. I got to go to this debrief. I'm already like 45 minutes, an hour late. So I go in there, do my thing. I tell them no. I go do my thing for 2 hours. I come out of the debrief and they're still there waiting for me. And this time they're like, hey, you're going to come up and talk to us. Like, you don't really have a choice anymore. And I was like, all right. Make my way to headquarters. I remember parking in the lot, and I knew the game was over. Like I knew that I was done. I had been involved in 3 officer-involved shootings, 2 off-duty incidents, all within 18 months. I'm still a baby cop. I knew that I was fucked up. I knew that I was a liability to the department. All the hard work that I put into getting into this career, first of all, just changing my life around as a youngster. I could have gone one way and I didn't. Going to college and getting my degree, and I ended up getting my degree in criminology, criminal justice, and psychology. Got my degrees, working at the correctional facility, animal control, not giving up after getting disqualified. finally getting hired, putting in all this hard work, building my reputation on the department as a baby rookie cop. I've already been involved in 2 OISs, now my 3rd one. All this hard work I put in, all down the drain. I'm going to get terminated. I'd been on long enough at that point to know that when we get terminated from this profession, nobody gives a fuck about all the lives you saved. Nobody gives a fuck about all the reports and the warrants that you wrote up and all the high profile investigations that you conducted. Nobody gives a fuck about your dope and the guns you got off the street, the gangsters that you got off the street, your felony arrest, your awards, all the medals that you wear on your Class A uniforms. Nobody gives a shit about all the bars and stars and stripes that you wear on your uniform. Nobody gives a shit about none of that. People remember you by the way that you were terminated. Like oh shit. Oh yeah, I know Mike. He slapped the shit out of his wife and he DV and he got arrested, right? That a dumb motherfucker, right? Oh my God, yeah, I know her. She got 3 DUIs. Like, what a dumbass, right? That and I was on long enough to hear these stories and hear people, nobody ever said like, oh yeah, so-and-so got terminated, but man, what a good ass fucking cop he was, man. What an awesome, man. He saved lives. Like he saved a girl from drowning. Like nobody ever talks about people like that. Everybody talks shit about them. And I knew that it was over. And I walk into that wellness unit office and man, I'm defeated. I'm sit down on a couch similar to this one, a little longer. I sit down on the couch and Deanna walks up to me and she says, "How are you doing, Mike?" I said, "I'm doing good. How are you?" She's like, "I'm doing good." She's like, how's the wife and the kids doing?" I was like, they're doing great. Doing great. "How's your sleep?" "Sleep's great. I overslept today. That's why I was late to the debrief. I overslept. Sleep's pretty good." And she sat there and she stared at me for like, I don't know, probably like 20 seconds. Like it was like this very long, awkward silence. And I'm looking at her. She said, "Hey, Mike, we talked to a couple of people that love and care about you, and your whole life is fucked up. And you don't even know it. Your career is about to be fucked up too." And now I'm like, oh shit, it's over now, right? I'm starting to sweat, man. I'm like rubbing my kneecaps. I started looking up at the ceiling. I was like, and the door was over here to my right. I kept looking at the door. I was looking at the ceiling. And remember, I'm paranoid. I've been awake for 3 days. I've been drinking 3 days straight. I'm already paranoid, sober with sleep. I'm already paranoid. Now I'm even more paranoid. I haven't slept. And I'm like rubbing my kneecaps. I'm like looking around. I'm like, my ass is like wiggling in the chair. And she said, "We talked to a couple of people that love and care about you, and we think that you may be having issues with alcohol, and it may be due to all the critical incidents you've been involved in." Months later, I talked to her, and she said, "Why did you keep looking up at the ceiling?" And she's like, "Why'd you keep looking at the door?" They thought I was going to they were like, "Is he going to foot bail on us? Like, is he really going to get up and run out the door, like run away, like the cop is going to run from the cops, right? He's not even in any kind of like trouble. Why do you keep looking up at the ceiling?" And I told her, I was like, I thought I was on an A&E intervention show. I truly, and I know it sounds stupid, but I was like looking, I was like, dude, am I being recorded? Like, is there cameras? I kept looking at the door because 2 people were going to walk through it. The chief of police, "I need your gun and badge." Or my wife and my kids, "Get some help. We love you. Please stop drinking. Go get some help." So I kept looking at the door. I kept looking at the ceiling. And she said, "Hey, we want to offer you an opportunity to go get some help. There's a first responder only treatment facility in Los Angeles County. They deal with first responders dealing with PTSD and substance abuse issues. We think you'd benefit from it." I was like, I'm good. I'm not crazy. I can stop drinking anytime I want. I don't have any issue. I'm good. Went home. She followed up on me multiple times that day, the next day, the following day. Finally, I said, fuck it. I'm going to go. So so about 3 days later, after Deanna kept following up on me and checking, and she was trying to get me into the program, I finally decided to take the bait. I decided to enter treatment. I knew that I was going to get fired. I knew that I was going to be terminated, but I was like, before I get terminated, I'm going to let the department fix me, because I knew that I was fucked up. I knew that I was broken. I knew that it wasn't normal for me to drink that much just to do things like sleep. I knew it wasn't normal for me to cry in my sleep. Like I knew all this was not normal. So I went into treatment. I spent 26 days in inpatient treatment up in LA County. Um, got diagnosed with PTSD. I get there, I get to the program, and they're not gonna a first responder only program is not going to search a cop's bags. They do. I brought all my firearms with me, and it's a funny story. I thought I was gonna be like a 5150 or be considered like a psychiatric, like a nutcase, right? And so that they were gonna come and take all my guns. So I brought them all with me. I broke down the rails, the barrels. I wrapped them in my pants. I was like smuggling them in, and so they found all that. It was lunchtime. I get there and I start to meet all these guys, and they're all OGs. And I won't shoot out the agencies that they're with, but there was folks from California agencies, Texas, New York, Alaska, and I was the baby in there. And I remember one guy asking like, "Hey, bro, how much time do you have on?" And I was like, I puffed up my chest. I was like, "I got 3 years on, homie. Why, what's up?" And I didn't even have 3 years. I had like 2.5. But when you're talking to OGs and these guys had like 15, 20, 47 years in the profession, you got to just like, you got to raise that, don't say 2.5, say 3 years. It sounds better. And then another guy, "Dude, what the fuck's wrong with you?" I was like, "They said I'm drinking too much." And then another guy, "Dude, just stop drinking. It ain't worth it." I'm like, "Motherfucker, if I could, I would." All right. I know all that already. So day one, I get to meet all the guys. Day two is when the work started. And I got to learn why every single one of those dudes were in there. And then they got to hear why I was in there. And it was the first time that I learned about cumulative trauma, compound trauma, all the stuff that you deal with day in and day out of life, work. Out of all those guys, not one of them had been involved in an officer involved shooting. And I had been involved in 3. And I was the baby there. But they were just as broken as I was. Every single one of them. Some people were suicidal, substance abuse, and not just alcohol and pills, but other stuff. Their kids didn't talk to them anymore. Divorce, like everything, right? I learned about cumulative trauma, the things that we talked about during our group sessions, the things that we and they brought up, doing CPR on a dead baby. And there's nothing you're going to do for that dead baby, but you're going through the motions because the family is sitting there expecting you to do something. Responding to a vehicle accident where the vehicle's fully engulfed in flames and you're watching somebody burn alive inside. The screams from a mother when she loses her child. Only one scream like it. A sister doesn't scream like that. A wife doesn't scream like that. But a mother, when she loses her child, she screams from the depths of her soul. Vehicle versus pedestrians, where there's body parts all over the place. Watching autopsies of a 2 or a 3 or a 4-year-old child, way different than watching the autopsy of an adult, right? The internet crimes against children, those detectives that have to watch, kids get raped or molested or do sexual things, over and over and over to their grandpa or uncle or their dad. You know what I mean? Like all these things that these guys talked about, they eventually broke. And it wasn't just the work stuff. When we get off of work, after we have a hard, long day, a shitty day, life doesn't just give us a timeout. Life continues to go forward. We get into fights with our significant others. We go through divorces. We have financial issues. We have medical issues of our own. Some of our kids are more fucked up than the people that we deal with out in the street. They have mental health issues. The substance abuse issues, their criminal activity, whatever it may be, gang activity. Life doesn't just stop when we get home. Life goes on. And then what about all the things that we bring with us into this profession? Some of us have been to war and seen combat. Some of us have been molested and raped, grew up homeless, grew up poor, grew up with no parents, lost a mom or a dad at a young age. Some of us didn't know a mom or a dad. We never knew our mom and dad, right? Some of us lost a real brother or a real sister at a young age. You think that doesn't fuck with us? That doesn't affect us into adulthood? we just learn to shove it all down and put it away. And then when we get into this profession, what we deal with out in the street, we shove it down and we put it away. And then when we get home, we shove it down, we ignore it, we put it away. If you don't take care of yourself, like me, like all these guys that I was in there with, everybody has a breaking point. And all these guys eventually they broke. And I did too. So it was the first time I learned about cumulative trauma, and I took advantage of everything that facility had to offer me, from EMDR therapy, acupuncture and yoga and paint therapy and breathing exercises, meditation, one-on-one sessions with the doctor. But the equine therapy, they had horses out there. We were feeding the horses. But the biggest takeaway that I got was the group sessions, the being able to tell your story and open up to other, other men. These were OGs, guys that have been on way longer than I have, being able to open up to other men and talk about the things that I saw, the things that I dealt with, what I was going through. It was a life-changing experience. There was two big takeaways that I got being at the facility. One was I learned how to sleep. I remember they had me on medication for about a week because I was a paranoid freak. I was all anxious all the time. But the second week, I remember sleeping like 8 hours straight, never woke up to pee or roll over in my bed or anything. And I always describe it like my brain, it took its first breath of just pure oxygen. There was this clarity that I had when I woke up, like that fogginess that was there every single day, all day long, it was gone. But there was this clarity, man, like this, like just this like crisp thinking and being able to articulate myself and being able to understand what I was hearing. It was amazing what like one night of healthy sleep could do. Just that first night. But I learned how to sleep. And I also learned how shitty of a father that I had become. That, um, all the time that I had squandered, that my kids will never be that small. I can't go back and do it over. I can't go back and hold them, nap with them, put them to bed the way that I could have, the way that I should have as a father. I don't remember their favorite toys that they played with. I don't remember the favorite cartoons they watched on TV. If I was in any of the pictures on the holidays, I don't remember them. I avoided holidays because feeding my ego at work felt so much better than being a father and being a husband. I had squandered all that time that I'll never get back. And I promised myself when I was in there that if I had a second chance to do it over, or if I had a second chance to make some of that time up, that I would never waste it again. And I got diagnosed with PTSD while I was in there. I was there for 26 days. I spent Thanksgiving inside there of 2019, got out a few days before Christmas. And my wife ended up staying with me. And I've had these conversations with people, or people have asked me like, were you surprised? And I was like, well, I was definitely surprised that she stayed with me. But if she would have left me, I wouldn't have been mad at her. I would have understood, because she didn't sign up for all the shit that I had put her through. She didn't sign up for being married to somebody who had been involved in 3 shootings. She didn't sign up for none of that. I did. I signed up for this career. If she would have left me, I would have been okay with it. I would have understood. And I'm glad she didn't. She stayed with me. We started doing counseling, individually. We eventually did marriage counseling together. Life started to get better. I learned how to spend quality time with my kids, putting my cell phone away, Because that's a huge distraction. Even now, like it's a bad habit. Even I'm not perfect at it. I still have a bad habit of looking at it. My wife has to remind me, like, "Hey, phone." I'm like, "Oh shit, all right, all right." But but I learned how to spend quality time with my kids, and life wasn't a chore. Like it wasn't difficult for me to take them to school on their first day of kindergarten, their first day of first grade, their first day of second grade, be involved in the parent teacher conferences, open house at their school, when they get awards at school. Like I take the time off, and before I would never even, I wouldn't do it. Um, I was just never involved, not because I had to work, but because I wanted to work. Again, feeding that ego, it was it felt so much better than dealing with home life. Um, but taking them to their swim classes or to jujitsu, and taking them to school, or taking them to go get their haircuts, sitting down and doing homework with them, and that is not fun. But I'm there. I'm there, and I'm present. And I try to be. It's hard. It's hard. I'm not perfect at it at all. My wife is perfect at it, but I'm not. I'm still like learning, but I'm trying to be there. And life got better, man. I eventually went back out to the field. Obviously I was sober. I was feeling better. The symptoms were, going away. Um, I became a member of our OIS peer support team, now responding to officer involved shootings, taking people under my wing, checking on them. And it's been great. I became a field training officer. I became an FTO. My partner and I, we were awarded the Medal for Valor for the trailer park incident that we were involved in. And life was just, and not only just my kids, but my wife, like being able to have a conversation that eh, conversations didn't turn into arguments. We learned how to kind of fight fair, argue fairly. Um, Things just didn't get blown out of proportion. I was able to talk about finances and what we were going to do next weekend. And like this was stuff that I didn't have. There was no gas in my tank to even fathom or even try to think of having a conversation like that when I would get home prior to me going into treatment. And now I had the energy to do it, and I wanted to. That was the biggest thing. Things weren't. It wasn't a task. It wasn't a chore for me. It was like, I want to take my kids to school. I want to be there on their first day of kindergarten. Um, it's been absolutely amazing. In 2021, Deanna, she came to me. She said, "How would you like to work at the wellness unit?" And I was like, "Yeah, maybe like in 15 years when I'm all old and shit. Like not right now. I'm still out here getting it. I have I have a trainee. I'm an FTO. I got a little bit of extra pay, and we're still out here getting guns and dope and everything." And she's like, "No, more like 2 months." And I was like, "Well, let me talk to the captain first. We're short-staffed out on patrol. We're short-staffed as FTOs. I highly doubt that I'm going to get approval for that. So let me ask her." And she said, "Don't even worry about it. The chief of police already approved it." I was like, "Oh shit, I guess I'm being voluntold to go to become a wellness unit member." And it's been awesome. Like I'm still there to this day. We're responding to officer involved shootings, baby deaths. We're checking on officers. We're only there for employees and their family members. It's a one-stop shop for any employee and their family members to receive free resources that the department provides for free. And there are other, and I know this is going to sound like I'm talking trash, but there's other agencies that are doing it, but they're not doing it as good as San Diego PD. We've been doing it since 2011. We've perfected it. We our wellness unit's a one-stop shop for anybody to get psychological services for free for the employee and their family member that they live with. Chaplains, our chaplains are awesome. They're they're riding with officers daily. They're riding with the gang unit, with K9 unit. They're assigned to our homicide, sex crimes, child abuse. Like they're at every single division. They're rolling to all the officer involved shootings. They're rolling to all the baby deaths. They're at every single one of our debriefs. Our dispatchers have a chaplain assigned to their division. So our chaplains, our peer supporters, who are the best peer supporters in the entire nation. We have 175 peer supporters that are assigned to every part nearly every unit of our department, from gangs and canine and SWAT snipers and crime suppression teams and all 10 of our divisions. But we also have our human resources, our dispatchers, our crime scene techs. There's peer support everywhere. And these are men and women who are boots on the ground, that are out there responding and taking care of other employees who may need some help, who may have gone to a gruesome scene or have encountered a pretty, crazy investigation, and they're checking on them, just making sure that they're okay. And if they're not okay, that they provide the resources that the department has available to them. The wellness unit, we oversee our alcohol and substance abuse program, PTSD / PTSD. We could get people into inpatient, outpatient treatment. We could get people into law enforcement only AA meetings. There's Christian faith-based meetings that we could set people up with. It's we have our family wellness team, which is comprised of significant others. The significant other of an employee helping out a significant other. Sometimes wives can talk to wives and be on the same level compared to, me as a police officer talking to, a police officer's husband about something. I'm not a civilian, so it's like civilians helping civilians. It's awesome. It's been absolutely rewarding to see, and again, San Diego PD, we're not perfect. We have a lot to work on. We still have opportunities to get better, but the San Diego Police Department had that resource available for me to use, and I utilized it. And that's gonna come to help me later on. And it hasn't just helped me, man. It's helped plenty of officers, detectives, sergeants, lieutenants, people who deserve the help, and they need the help.
If there's one thing you want someone to take away from your story today, what would that be?
So I would say that there's no honor in suffering in silence. The only people that suffer is you and the people that love you, the people that care about you, the true people who actually give a shit about you. There's no honor in suffering in silence. And there's an opportunity for you to get fixed, to be restored, get built from the ground on up. It's not easy. It's hard, but it's worth it. Like we are worth it. You're worth it. You're worth it to your family. Sometimes people are in difficult life situations with their significant other or with their family. And I've seen employees restore their relationships, divorce, break up, and they get back together. Maybe not right away, but they get back together. But it's worth it. You're worth it. And let me just before are we gonna end right now?
Yeah, you can.
Let me talk about the last shooting. So I'm gonna bounce talking about the how the resources were beneficial for me. That it's going to help me later on. About 2 years later, on January 10th of 2022, I was involved in my fourth shooting, and I'm the wellness unit guy. I was working overtime. Me and my buddy, we were working overtime, and early in the morning, and Monday morning at 7:00 in the morning, an armed robbery with a knife comes out over the radio. We're like, hey, let's go help out. By the time we get there, it's going to be done and over with. We get there. The suspect was last seen running down the alley behind the liquor store. We start driving down the alley. We see somebody loosely matching the clothing description, like 2 blocks away, walking away from us. So as we start driving behind him, perfect timing, dispatch gets on the air. She updates the description of the suspect. And as we're passing this guy, he looks at me, I look at him, and my partner's like, holy shit, dude, this is a good possible. I'm like, yeah, no kidding. So we pull up, we get out to contact this guy. And before I could even say anything, he pulls out the knife from the top of his jacket, and then he pulls out a gun. He blades off. Everybody starts shooting. He starts shooting. I start shooting. My partner starts shooting. Next thing you know, something hits my chest. I eat shit. I fall on the ground, and I'm like, well, I just got shot. Bad day for my wife and kids. I roll over to the prone position and I start shooting from my stomach. Bang, 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 bang. Slide locks back. I run out of ammunition. The suspect still bladed off, pointing the gun at me. My partner's shooting. Another San Diego PD officer arrives. He's shooting the suspect. And I just remember everything going quiet and just thinking to myself, God, don't let me die here. I know that I'm going to die. I know this is it. Just don't let me die here. Let me die at the hospital. And I decide, I better be a hard target to hit. So I do this roll. I'm like rolling on the ground, trying to get the hell out of the way. I reload, shoot the suspect multiple times. Suspect drops to the ground. He ends up getting back up, getting the gun, pointing it back at me. I shoot him 3 more times. We kill him. And it was a moment of when I got transported back to Central Division. It was a moment where I was like, man, all these symptoms are going to come back. All these, the paranoia, the PTSD, all this stuff is going to come back. And it never did. And again, that was the reason why I want to bring up that if it wasn't for the San Diego Police Department's resources, if it wasn't for the wellness unit and for the resources that were provided to me and were provided to other officers, I would have never made it to that 4th OIS. I wouldn't be, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be here anymore. However that would have played out. But I am. And I am because the department didn't get rid of me. Again, we're not perfect. There's still room for us to grow and get better at what we do, and as a department, even as a wellness unit. But they didn't get rid of me, and they could have. And I'm grateful for that. Deanna, she didn't give up on me. She kept following up with me. They put the perfect person on that unit to help me. And I credit the department. I credit the resources. I credit Deanna. I credit my wife and my sergeant, Oscar. My wife ended up, after my 3rd OIS, she reached out to my sergeant. And my sergeant was like, damn, I knew, he knew something just wasn't right with me. He just didn't know what it was. There was a whole bunch of people that played a role in saving me. It was my wife, my sergeant, Deanna, the department, the resources, the wellness unit. I didn't do it on my own, but at the end of the day, it falls on us. I got to give myself credit because I put in the work. And I always say this, that, nobody can go to the gym for you and work out for you. Nobody can write your investigations. Nobody can make your arrest for you. You got to do that shit on your own. You need to learn on your own. You need to put in that work, and it's worth it. And if I could say anything to anybody who's on the fence, there's no honor in suffering in silence. There's no honor in killing yourself. Life can get better. When I was living in that darkness in 2018 and 2019, I never knew what waited for me on the other side. The joy that my wife, that my kids bring to me, being able to hug my kids, them telling me that they love me, and thank you for hanging out with me, thank you for playing with me, all these little things that I didn't know that, or I think, all of this I would have missed if I would have done something dumb or something crazy would have happened to me. There's a way out. It's not easy. It's hard, but it's worth it. We are worth it. You're worth it.
Michael, I appreciate you coming on the show today.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it, man. Thank you guys so much for having me. And again, shout out to Steve Murphy for connecting us. And obviously that was via the Southern California Gang Conference. And again, I do conferences all over the nation now, gang and narcotic and different agencies and stuff like that. So if I could be of any help to anybody, please share my information with them. And yeah,
absolutely.
I appreciate you.